Reward. Ascension. Ascension. Reward 2:100 bottles of divine source water. Li Yuanqing had just squatted by the array when this voice suddenly appeared in his mind. He did not expect to successfully sign in here again. He had only used up 1 bottle of divine source water and still had so much on hand, so he was not in a hurry to replenish it. Choose the Dharma Fate form. Congratulations on obtaining the source image. The reward has been issued. Li Yuanqing suddenly felt his vision turn white. It was as if a strong light had suddenly hit his eyes, causing him to be unable to see anything for a moment. He swayed a few times in a daze and finally recovered after a long time. Unknowingly, a very dignified Dharma idol appeared in front of him. This Buddha statue was golden all over, and its face was full of compassion and a dignified smile. Just as Li Yuanqing was about to take a closer look, a spiritual light suddenly flashed beside him. Wang Qiushan appeared. The moment Wang Qiushan appeared, he fell to his knees with a thud. He spat out a mouthful of blood, which splattered on the teleportation array. Master! Wang Susu threw herself onto her master with tears in her eyes. She never thought that her master would end up like this. Master, what happened to you? Wang Qiushan grabbed Wang Susu and looked at her weakly. Miss, it's good that you're fine. Let's hurry up and leave. Wang Susu wiped away her tears and knelt beside the teleportation formation, wanting to activate it. However, the array was always dark. No matter how Wang Susu changed the spirit stone, the patterns on it didn't react. Only the outermost few lines moved slightly, as if they had encountered some resistance and retreated again. Wang Susu anxiously moved the spirit stone left and right, but no matter how she moved it, it was useless. Every time she changed it, the scene was the same. Wang Susu became even more nervous. She didn't even know what to do with her hands. At this moment, a big hand suddenly grabbed Wang Susu's wrist. Wang Susu raised her head and saw that it was Li Yuanqing. What are you doing? He'll be here soon. If he comes, we'll all die here. Wang Susu thought that Li Yuanqing would continue to bargain. Li Yuanqing stared at the two of them and said coldly, If you don't understand, then move aside. He threw Wang Susu aside and squatted in the center of the array. One of his fingers suddenly turned pitch black and gently pressed on the connection of the patterns. He was very focused on sliding. Wang Susu wanted to stop him but was stopped by Wang Qiushan. Master! Wang Qiushan shook his head lightly, his brows tightly knitted as he stared at Li Yuanqing. This kid has the unique temperament of an array master. He will definitely be able to bring us out of here. Wang Susu followed her master's gaze and looked over. Li Yuanqing's focused expression and motionless posture seemed to be emitting a very unique energy. That temperament wrapped his entire body, as if he had added a layer of shell on the outside. Wang Susu thought that this young man would only joke around with her. She didn't expect him to have such a serious side.
Bang!
An intense energy struck the roof of the house. Excited by the flames, the incomparably hard hut that was supported by the array was directly blasted into pieces. The fragments shattered in all directions. There were also boulders that fell directly towards Li Yuanqing's head. Wang Qiushan stretched out his hand and directly smashed those boulders into powder, all of which fell to the side. The three figures were completely exposed in front of Fang Qianyuan. Fang Qianyuan's pair of pure white eyes stared below without any joy or sorrow. It was as if two pillars of fire had locked onto the three of them. Master is catching up. Wang Qiushan looked at the sky with a pale expression. He forced himself to stand up, and energy slowly gathered around him. Fang Qianyuan, don't go too far. Fang Qianyuan's voice sounded like it came from beyond the heavens. It was extremely deep and penetrating. You guys, all of you will be buried with young sect master. As soon as he finished speaking, the arm was raised high, and the long saber in his hand turned hot and pure white. Wang Qiushan's eyes revealed a sorrowful expression. Suddenly, he took out a large pile of shields. Some were made of pure turtle shell, some were golden round shields, and some were like thick city walls. He placed the messy pile of things in front of everyone and turned around to look at Li Yuanqing anxiously. Who knows when this Li Yuanqing will be able to finish? Miss, Could it be that she will be buried here because of me? Just as Wang Qiushan was feeling vexed, Li Yuanqing's body suddenly lit up with a holy light. Wang Qiushan shook his head. He thought he had seen wrongly. In just a short while, the light on Li Yuanqing's body had already dissipated, and everything returned to normal. Just as Wang Qiushan heaved a sigh of relief, Wang Susu suddenly exclaimed. This was because an incomparably huge Dharma idol had appeared above their heads at some point. This Dharma idol was 3,000 meters tall, and one of its feet covered the entire valley. The top of its head was completely boundless. Wang Qiushan couldn't help but gasp when he saw this Dharma idol. In front of him, Fang Qianyuan, who had completely lost all human emotions, took a few steps back when he saw the Dharma idol. The long saber in his hand lost its movement. The huge Dharma idol slowly raised one of its feet and slowly and firmly stepped on Fang Qianyuan. Fang Qianyuan seemed to be frozen in place, unable to move. He could only watch as the Dharma idol stepped on his body. His body lit up with an intense light, and the scorching white flames burned fiercely. A white barrier was instantly formed. Just as Wang Qiushan was engrossed in watching, a voice suddenly sounded in his ear. "Let's go." A ray of light flashed past the three people who were still here just now and disappeared in an instant. The originally exquisitely constructed teleportation formation had also turned into ruins. Fang Qianyuan held a long saber in his hand and continuously injected energy into the white barrier in front of him. The flames burned extremely pure, and the dazzling light seemed to be able to penetrate people. However, he did not get anything. The Dharma idol disappeared just like that. It disappeared without a trace, leaving nothing behind. The aura of the three people disappeared along with it. The entire valley instantly became quiet, leaving only him standing above the ruins. Fang Qianyuan was bewildered as he looked up at the sky. It had already become empty. He suddenly realized that he had been deceived. He looked down and saw that the three guys had already fled without a trace. He brandished the large saber and smashed it heavily towards the teleportation array below, directly shattering it. "Cloud Sky Sect, I can't live under the same sky as you." This intense roar spread out for hundreds of miles before it gradually calmed down. 1,000 miles away, in an inconspicuous thatched cottage in a valley with an ethereal aura, the three of them walked out together. Outside the gate, the disciples of the sect were stunned and looked at the man who was not familiar with the world. The time did not know what to do. "You." He pointed at Li Yuanqing in a daze and tried to recall if he had seen such a person before. Just as he was puzzled, two more people walked out from behind, supporting each other. "Miss?" The disciple hurriedly went up to him. "Master Wang? How did you become like this?" Wang Qiushan ignored him and took out a jade pendant from his waist, crushing it heavily. "Stay here and guard this place. Gather all the personnel and strictly guard this place." Li Yuanqing's expression changed slightly. He carefully identified the direction and turned to the two of them. He said goodbye. "Since you have returned safely, my mission is complete. I will take my leave now." "You can't leave." Li Yuanqing followed the two of them to the outskirts of the Cloud Sky Sect. He thought that he could leave after sending the two of them back safely, but who knew that he would be stopped just as he was about to leave. He stopped outside the teleportation array. Behind him, someone approached him. In the end, that person's footsteps stopped 3 meters behind him. "What's wrong? Could it be that at this time, the two of you still want to find trouble with me?" Li Yuanqing turned around. His face was still as thin as before, and his eyes were bright and piercing as he stared at Wang Qiushan. Hearing Li Yuanqing's words, Wang Susu blushed and stood silently behind her master. Wang Qiushan was someone who had seen the storm. Seeing Li Yuanqing being called out so abruptly, he seemed to be a little unhappy. He greeted Li Yuanqing with the courtesy of a peer and cupped his hands slightly. "Young hero, we, master and disciple, have no intention of offending you." Li Yuanqing snorted lightly and looked at Wang Susu, who was standing behind him. "This young miss of yours wanted to kill me just now. If I hadn't been smart enough to escape by luck, I'm afraid I would have died under that ark's blade." "Susu, there's such a thing?" Wang Qiushan asked Wang Susu with a straight face. Wang Susu replied with a red face, who asked him to stand by and watch when he saw that I was being chased. If we follow Lady Wang's words, everyone in this world should die? Li Yuanqing asked unhappily. So what if he deserves to die? Wang Susu stuck out her chest and replied stubbornly. Wang Qiushan was slightly angry. He glared at Wang Susu and said, "Miss." Wang Susu saw Wang Shan's expression and her unyielding attitude softened. She quietly retreated and said in a low voice, "He was clearly the one who left her in the lurch." Wang Qiushan actually stood on Li Yuanqing's side and said to Wang Susu, "It was because of this young hero who helped you that I was able to escape today. If it wasn't for the young hero who repaired the teleportation array just now, we would have been dead souls in Fang Qinyuan's hands." Wang Susu was stunned by Wang Qiushan's imposing manner. She could only lower her head and stare at the ground without saying a word. While the master and disciple were lecturing, Li Yuanqing was leisurely watching from the side. He couldn't help but sweep his gaze back and forth between the two of them. "Young hero, I didn't expect you to have such strength. With your strength at the peak of the array formation realm, you were able to kill the young master of the Fang family's young master, Fang Beishan, until his soul was scattered." Li Yuanqing waved his hand and replied casually, "I'm just a rogue cultivator. I don't have any background. Besides, I didn't kill the young master of the Fang family." "But young hero, that Fang Qinyuan clearly said that his young master was killed? That old man must be muddle-headed. He doesn't even know who killed his young master, but he chased after us and barked. I was unlucky enough to meet you today, but I have nothing else to do now. If the two of you don't have anything else to say, then I'll take my leave first." Wang Qiushan blocked Li Yuanqing with one hand and said with a smile, "Young hero, please don't misunderstand. I don't mean to stop you. It's just that young hero has helped us out of danger. Our Cloud Sky sect has a gift for you." Li Yuanqing's eyes moved. If the Cloud Sky sect wanted to give him some treasures, he could accept it. However, taking other people's treasures was equivalent to boarding a pirate ship. Who knew what would happen in the future? Moreover, these large sects were all very cautious in their work. If he had tampered with that treasure, wouldn't he be completely exposed? Thinking of this, Li Yuanqing immediately rejected, "Forget it. I'll just take it that I'm unlucky today. Forget about treasures. I don't have the fortune to enjoy the treasures of your large sections." "Young hero, why do you say that?" Seeing Li Yuanqing like this, Wang Qiushan thought that Li Yuanqing was really hurt, so he hurriedly said, "If you don't mind, I can persuade the sect master to let you choose from the treasure vault." "Master!" Wang Susu whispered behind him. Wang Qiushan raised his hand to stop Wang Susu from saying anything. "Young hero, since you saved us, we should give you the treasure." Li Yuanqing did not lack this bit of money. He was still rushing back to take care of his medicinal field and quickly refine more medicinal pills and tools. Thus, he waved his head impatiently and was about to leave without looking back. "Why are you two so long-winded? Was I not clear enough just now? I'm used to being idle. Today's matter is between your two sections. It has nothing to do with me. Just pretend that I've never been here." The disciples of the other sects looked at the scene in confusion. Master Wang was a hot figure in their sect. Anyone who saw Master Wang would have to give him some face and speak politely. But why was this man in front of her looking at her? However, he looked like a young man in his 20s, and his cultivation was at the peak of the array formation realm. Although he was not bad, it was not to the point where Wang Qiushan had to bow down to him. However, it was obvious that Master Wang had a favor to ask of this young hero. His attitude was too humble. It was something that he had never seen before. It was shocking. Seeing that he couldn't stop Li Yuanqing, Wang Qiushan took a jade pendant from his waist and stuffed it into Li Yuanqing's hand. Li Yuanqing glared at Wang Qiushan, who immediately raised his hands and explained, "Young hero, please don't misunderstand. I don't have any other intentions. This jade pendant is something that I carry with me, and it's quite spiritual. Moreover, it can also communicate with the Mother Jade of my sect." "Mother Jade?" "If young hero has any needs, just inject your spiritual power into this jade pendant, and I will receive your call." Li Yuanqing looked at the jade pendant in his hand. This jade was made of a different material. If it was an ordinary jade, he would have thrown it away. However, The jade pendant in his hand was not only crystal clear, but it also carried a very unique spiritual power. It looked like a treasure. Since you're so sincere, I'll reluctantly accept this thing. Li Yuanqing seemed to be very unwilling. With a flip of his hand, the jade pendant disappeared. How will your sect leave? Young hero, don't panic. As Wang Qiushan spoke, he stretched out his finger and lightly tapped Li Yuanqing's body. I've already left a mark on you, young hero. Later, you can leave through the sect's formation. All right then. This time, I'm grateful that you saved me. Otherwise, we would have been in danger. Wang Qiushan was still in the middle of his sentence when Li Yuanqing had already turned into a cloud and left. He ran especially fast without even looking back. Wang Qiushan raised his head with great regret and looked in the direction Li Yuanqing had left. His expression slowly became solemn. Master, this kid is not simple. Why did you let him go just like that? Wang Susu walked up and looked at Li Yuanqing's back. Wang Qiushan replied coldly, this kid definitely has an extraordinary background. I'm afraid there's a super powerful faction behind him. It's best if we don't become enemies with him. Master, did you see the case just now? I loaded that guy summon such a huge Dharma idol. Did Fang Qinyuan die under the hands of his Dharma idol? Wang Qiushan shook his head slightly.
No.
We just left. Fang Qinyuan is still fluctuating. It's coming from the other end of the array. He shouldn't be dead yet. If such a young child could easily kill Fang Qinyuan, it would be too shocking. Wang Susu suddenly thought of the scene when the two of them were together in the domain space. Master once said that the size of the domain space is related to one's state of mind. Then how could he completely materialize his personal domain space and expand it to thousands of miles? Wang Qiushan glanced at Wang Susu and patted her shoulder lightly. Miss, don't think about such distant things for the time being. This domain space is a matter of fate. If the opportunity came, he would naturally be able to achieve great success. Wang Susu pouted and muttered to herself, this fellow is really not simple. By the way, miss, was that Ark really killed by this person? Of course he's right. The white jade sword of Ark is in his hands. I even took it away from him. In other words, he destroyed the Ark in such a short period of time and even managed to escape Fang Qinyuan's fatal blow. Just as Wang Qiushan was thinking, a phantom suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. As soon as that person appeared, he looked at the two of them with great concern and asked, Susu, are you injured? Father, I'm not injured. It's just that Master had a big battle with Fang Qinyuan and suffered a lot of injuries. Come to the Thousand Sun Palace quickly. I've already gathered all the eiders to wait here. Sect Master, wait a moment. I'll bring Susu over now. As soon as they finished speaking, Wang Qiushan waved his sleeve and brought Wang Susu with him. The two of them rushed into the clouds and disappeared, leaving only a white trail behind. On the other side, Li Yuanqing found the northeast direction and ran all the way. Soon, he arrived at the periphery of the mountain gate. He specifically chose a place with few people to walk in front of him, and a very high barrier appeared. This was a 10,000-meter tall wall that stretched for thousands of miles. It was so tall that one couldn't see the end of it, and it surrounded the entire Cloud Sky sect. There was a very strong restriction on the clearance here. Even though Li Yuanqing's strength was at the periphery, it was increasingly difficult to use it. He could only land on the ground and come to the wall. There weren't any patrols here, but with such high walls and such a severe restriction, it would be difficult to not attract attention if one were to climb up. Just as Li Yuanqing was fretting, he suddenly saw the wall in front of him shaking slightly. This feeling was very strange. Li Yuanqing tried to walk forward. The closer he got to the wall, the bricks on the wall automatically retreated and split into small pieces. A small door opened in the middle for one person to pass through. Li Yuanqing raised his hand to take a look. The mark Wang Qiushan gave him was quite useful. He went through the high wall and the small door, arriving at the outside world. Behind the high wall was a dense forest that was more than 10 times taller than a human's body. When they reached the outside, the growth of these plants slowed down. They were not that exaggerated in size, but they were still very dense. There were many energy fluctuations scattered in the forest, and many demon tribes were scattered here. These monster tribes were all affiliated with the human race, and they protected the Cloud Sky sect. Once outside, the restriction of the clearance became much weaker. Li Yuanqing let loose and flew over the forest. From time to time, some demons below would cast strange gazes. However, these demons would not care about those who came out of the sect. Those who came out of the sect were all high-grade humans. They did not have the authority to govern them. The Cloud Sky sect wasn't a big sect. It could only be said to be a mid-tier human sect. However, they had hundreds of races under them. One of the reasons was that the demon race had a strong reproductive ability. Many of them were born from a strong person. The area of the forest outside was also unusually large. Li Yuanqing also spent a long time before finally groping his way out of here. Within the Cloud Sky sect's territory, there was a special sensing system below. Anything that happened above would be sensed by the Cloud Sky sect. Although this kind of special array formation was very complicated to make, its effect was surprisingly good. It had very strong defensive attributes. Li Yuanqing didn't dare to stay in their territory for too long. After coming out, he ran with his head down. He ran for 1,000 miles before finally stopping. He carefully identified the direction and tried to stay as far away from Phoenix Cry Valley as possible. He was all alone now. If he were to bump into Feng Qianyuan, it would not be easy for him. And most importantly, it was best to lead this matter into a struggle between the sealed sections. They would remove themselves from the picture and not get involved in anything. It was hard to guarantee that he still had the aura of the Ark on him. If he was caught by that old thief Feng Qianyuan, he would let them change their target. Therefore, Li Yuanqing deliberately chose to go north. Although this way, he might have to take a long detour to return to the sect, it was better than falling into the hands of others. When he returned to the sect, it was already the next morning. Li Yuanqing walked to the front of his hut and was still a little stunned. He did not expect that he had experienced so many things yesterday. Before he could sigh, a reprimand suddenly came from behind him. "Good job, little Li." Li Yuanqing didn't even need to turn his head to know who it was. "What did you do yesterday? I've been looking for you here for a long time. Although some of your herbal fields have been trampled on, you can't just let them be." Zhao Baoyun complained to Li Yuanqing the moment he arrived. He was still brooding over the fact that Li Yuanqing had disappeared for an entire day. Li Yuanqing explained that he wanted to go to the wild to pick wild herbs, but he did not expect to fall into someone else's trap, which delayed him. Although Zhao Baoyun was dissatisfied, he could only reluctantly accept Li Yuanqing's explanation. It turned out that the reason why Zhao Baoyun was in such a hurry to find Li Yuanqing was to specially instruct Li Yuanqing to replenish the new seeds in the herbal fields that he had controlled earlier. "Recently, I have been in a hurry to get this fire spirit fruit. You can't always rest like this. If these fields are always empty, how can it work?" Zhao Baoyun even brought fresh seeds. In fact, he had brought quite a number of seeds before, but Li Yuanqing did not finish planting them all at once. Only half of them were left, and many places were empty. "Plant all these seeds. You might need to take care of them more carefully in the near future, especially this fire spirit fruit." After Zhao Baoyun finished speaking, he seemed to be a little worried and kept nagging. "I spent a lot of effort to pull you in. You can't let me down. Senior brother Zhao, don't worry. I will do my best to take care of these herbs." Li Yuanqing found it very strange. Why was this guy suddenly so anxious about the fire spirit fruit? Previously, he did not appear to be so anxious. Instead, he did not take it to heart. Could it be that the sect doesn't have enough medicinal refinement materials, so senior brother is so anxious to rush us? Zhao Baoyun answered subconsciously as he checked the room carefully. The sect doesn't use so much of it. It's just that the sales of the fire spirit fruits that are sold outside have increased a lot. Moreover, the price was right now, so the sect wanted to earn back some spirit stones for the cultivation. So that's what happened. I wonder who bought these things. Zhao Baoyun turned to look at Li Yuanqing and warned, "These are all matters of the sect. It's best if you don't ask questions, understand?" "Senior brother, I was too abrupt." Li Yuanqing admitted his mistake, and Zhao Baoyun's expression became much better. He looked at Li Qing and said carefully, "Actually, this matter is not a secret. There are many people who know about it. Those red-haired ghosts were expanding like crazy, buying fire spirit fruits everywhere. Red-haired ghost? It's those guys from the Fiery Yang sect. Zhao Baoyan sat beside the field and said happily, "Those guys are all stupid. They were the only ones there. It was one thing to refine some fire-attributed puppets, but now, for some unknown reason, they had gone crazy and expanded their scale. In the end, they would probably end up with nothing. Then if they are so miserable, will our sect not be able to collect the spirit stones?" Zhao Baoyan smiled at Li Yuanqing and said, "Are you stupid? If they had not prepared the spirit stones, why would the sect sell such a large amount of fire spirit fruits to them to refine into pills? Wouldn't they earn more? I'm going to pour it out. I'm going to pour it out. I don't know what those guys are planning." Now, each of the 100 fire spirit fruits has been given a price of 5 spirit stones. Otherwise, the sect wouldn't have specially allocated some to sell to them. Li Yuanqing did not expect this at all. Why would the people of the Fiery Sun sect offer such a high price? He was quite familiar with the market price. 5 spirit stones and 100 fire spirit fruits were a very high price. This was the price he gave Wang Lin, and Wang Lin was still happy. "Don't worry, senior brother. I'll definitely nurture them well and make them mature as soon as possible. Junior brother, do you know how rare the opportunity to work in the sect is? How can you not cherish it?" Zhao Baoyun said earnestly, "You made me worry about you all day long. Thank you for your consideration, senior brother. I was indeed too reckless yesterday and fell into a trap for no reason. Since it's bad, why didn't you inform Shixiao? I didn't expect it to drag on for so long, and I didn't think of telling senior brother about it. The next time I meet this kind of thing, I must ask for it. I must tell it. Thank you for your advice, senior brother." After Zhao Baoyun gave his final instructions, he patted his butt and stood up. Looking at the medicinal herbs all over the mountain, he let out a long sigh. As long as Senior Wang Lan doesn't come here every few days, the production on your side is still very stable. Remember to keep an eye on it. I still have some things to do, so I'll leave first. After Zhao Baoyun finished giving his instructions, I left in a hurry, leaving Li Yuanqing and the medicinal herbs on the ground. What was the background of this red-haired ghost? Li Yuanqing did not understand. If this group of people had such a great demand for the fire spirit fruit, wouldn't his giant spirit fruit be able to sell for a higher price? This was an excellent opportunity to expand the market. He still had so many giant spirit fruits in his hands. Li Yuanqing had just escaped from the outside, and now he had the intention to go out again. If he could really figure out why these demons needed the fire spirit fruit so much, it would definitely be a great opportunity for Li Yuanqing. Just as Li Yuanqing was thinking, a strong fluctuation suddenly came from outside the mountain gate. A slovenly old man stood outside the formation, holding a large wine gourd in his hand, waiting there in a very relaxed manner. When Li Yuanqing saw this old man, he secretly complained in his heart. He didn't expect that just as he wanted to go out and find some sales, this guy would immediately block his way. "Master, why are you here again?" Li Yuanqing opened a crack in the array outside the mountain gate and walked out from the crack. Wang Lan twisted her body slightly and dived into the herb garden. This made Li Yuanqing very helpless. This old man knew this place like the back of his hand. In fact, even if he did not need to call for the sect gate outside, it was not impossible for him to barge in directly. "Brat, don't play dumb with me. Take out as many fruits as you have. If I want more, I won't mistreat you. Senior, the giant spirit fruit is something that can only be found by chance. How can I give it to you in such a short time? That's a treasure given by the heavens." Wang Lan turned around and sized up Li Yuanqing. He did not believe Li Yuanqing's words at all. "Kid, why did I hear that someone auctioned the fire spirit pill in the black market yesterday? Moreover, the fire spirit pill was refined from the giant spirit fruit. Is that true?"
Li Yuanqing kuga ukwarli.
Wang Lan was a regular at Golden Bamboo Mountain. How could he hide these things from him? Where did Senior learn of this? Is there a need to specially understand such things? The news has already spread all over the place. "Brat, don't tell me you think that playing these tricks with me will benefit you? Senior, why do you say that? I've always respected you, and I definitely didn't mean to offend you." Wang Lan took out a wine gourd and drank a mouthful of wine. She said unhappily, "You say you respect me, but I can't see it at all. I've urged you time and time again, but you've always rejected me with all kinds of reasons. Li Yuanqing knew that he couldn't hide this matter anymore, so he could only say, Senior, please calm down. However, these are all arranged by Master. Master said that he can't sell so many at once. I hope Senior can be considerate of me. When Wang Lan heard that the topic was about the mysterious old man, she didn't pursue it anymore. She waved her hand and said, Stop. The price that Senior gave is definitely generous enough. Then why? Wang Lan glanced at Li Yuanqing's face and said directly, I wonder if you can bring some out for me today. I'm in a hurry too. I've almost used up the few I got a few days ago and I'm short of them now. Junior does have a few pills on hand. I wonder if they can resolve Senior's urgent needs. If you have it on hand, that would naturally be the best. Coincidentally, I also have some spirit stones. Wang Lan took out a storage bag with a flip of her hand. This storage bag was bulging, and she didn't know how many spirit stones were inside. Li Yuanqing had already reached such a stage. If he did not take out some goods, he would probably not be able to make it. Hence, he took out another 10 giant spirit fruits. The instant these 10 fruits appeared in front of her, Wang Lan's eyes widened. Good boy. You actually have so many treasures in your hands. Why are you still hiding them and refusing to take them out? After saying that, Wang Lan didn't discuss it with Li Yuanqing. She put all the fruits into her bag and casually threw the storage bag to Li Yuanqing. There are 200 spirit stones in this bag. Senior, I don't have that many fruits with me. I can't accept your extra spirit stones. Li Yuanqing hurriedly said. Wang Lan smiled nonchalantly and said, Brat, as long as you supply me with these gigantic spiritual fruits, it's not impossible to raise the price that we've discussed before. As long as I can satisfy that old gentleman, I'll do anything. Senior, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. There's nothing inappropriate about it. Now is the critical moment. These 10 fruits of yours saved my life. After Wang Lan took the fruit, he turned around and was about to leave in a daze. Li Yuanqing hurriedly stopped him. Senior, do you remember that last time Junior said that Junior would join the pill house? Didn't Senior say that there were already some clues? Why haven't I heard Senior mention it? Wang Lan slapped her forehead and remembered this. You mean my head? If you didn't remind me, I would have forgotten about it. It's good that Senior still remembers. Wang Lan took out a plain white jade token and handed it to Li Yuanqing. The pill house's test will begin in 3 months. You have to prepare well in these 3 months. Wang Lan poured another mouthful of wine into his mouth and said, Although your alchemy skills have some foundation, and you were able to refine that complicated fire spirit pill in such a short time, passing the assessment shouldn't be a problem. However, the rating is also very important. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. I will definitely remember it. Li Yuanqing's expression changed, and he suddenly asked, I wonder if Senior knows about that red-haired ghost? Wang Lan had already planned to leave, but when she heard Li Yuanqing's question, her expression immediately became nervous. She looked at Li Yuanqing and carefully weighed his options. Senior, what are you doing? Wang Lan stretched out her fingers and gestured at Li Yuanqing's face. She said unhappily, Kid, you don't want to sell me the gigantic spiritual fruit. Don't tell me you secretly hooked up with those red-haired ghosts? Senior, where did you get these words from? Li Yuanqing said innocently, I've only heard of these people, but I've never met them. Wang Lan was very unhappy when he heard this name. He said with some resentment, These people are not good people. Just stay away from them. Don't ask too much about things related to them. It won't do you any good. I just heard that they are offering a very high price for the fire spirit fruit. The sect is planning to sell a lot of it. I'm a little curious, so I asked. Wang Lan pouted and muttered a few words as if she was cursing. Then, she said to Li Yuanqing, Those people are not good people. They are crooked. Now, they have come up with some new ideas. I don't think they are of much use. Senior seems to know a lot about them. What's there to understand about those who live like ghosts? It was nothing more than discovering a new array that could directly transform the power of the fire spirit fruit. As Wang Lan spoke, she kept muttering and cursing. I told you long ago that those puppets were not proper immortal cultivators. Now that they had come up with such unorthodox methods, they would be killed by their own puppets sooner or later. After Wang Lan finished cursing, she didn't say anything more to Li Yuanqing. She just left in a hurry with those giant spiritual fruits. She didn't know how his work was progressing. It had to be said that the speaker had no intention, but the listener had the intention. Li Yuanqing himself had a superb puppet technique. He heard that someone could use this fire spirit fruit in puppet techniques. How could this not surprise him? If he could obtain this fire spell, wouldn't the results of using the giant spirit fruit be countless times stronger than ordinary fire spirit fruits? Just thinking about it made Li Yuanqing very interested in the Red Devil, who had a bad reputation. A person who looked exactly like him suddenly appeared beside him. It was his wood spirit clone. After handing over all the seeds to the wood spirit clone, Li Yuanqing left the sect in a hurry. The Divine Fire sect was located in a remote area. It was originally a very inconspicuous small sect. The cultivators here mainly cultivated fire-type cultivation techniques. The most troublesome thing was their unpredictable fire-type puppet techniques. Speaking of the Divine Fire sect's puppet technique, it's just a coincidence. It's too flattering to say that it was a coincidence. Their ancestors were a bunch of thieves. They stole the puppet technique that others were proud of and took it for themselves. That was how they came to be. It would be disgraceful if word got out. Along the way, Li Yuanqing asked around for clues about the red-haired ghost and encountered two cultivators. One of them was called Shi Datu, and the other was called Zhao Shaoji. Big Head Shi was not talking about his head, but the sledgehammer in his hand. Big Head Shi especially liked to show off his treasure. This heavenly star hammer was his reliance, and he had talked about it with Li Yuanqing on the way. He said that he had relied on this heavenly star hammer to defeat a second-level Supreme Realm enemy with his first-level Supreme Realm strength. The situation was extremely critical at that time. The enemy was so aggressive that he wanted to crush him into meat paste. However, who knew that he would suddenly master the heavenly star hammer at that time? And his use of the hammer was superb. He directly hit his enemy, who was caught off guard and was hit until his head was bleeding, and he fled in panic. Zhao Shaoji wielded a spear, his body was nimble, and his footwork was extraordinary. After Li Yuanqing gathered with the two of them, he tried to get more information about the Divine Fire sect from them. The two of them were not stingy at all. Li Yuanqing was so interested in the red-haired ghost that he directly exposed everything in his pocket. He did not hide anything at all. That bunch of bastards can be said to have done all kinds of bad things, but their luck is at best good. As Big Head Shi spoke, he punched a big tree beside him, leaving a 1-inch thick pit. Zhao Shaoji sat on a huge rock at the side. The three of them were resting here. In a while, they would be heading to their destination, which was less than 10 miles ahead. There was a newly built market there. The organizer of this market was the Divine Fire sect. Due to some special reasons, the Divine Fire sect was expanding very rapidly. Some time ago, they had wantonly plundered all kinds of natural treasures from the outside world. The most they had were fire attribute materials. After accumulating to a certain extent, their reputation also grew. As their reputation spread, more and more people were willing to do business with them. Therefore, they decided to set up such a market outside their own gang. After Big Head Shi finished his punch, the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Let me tell you, their sect has always had this kind of temperament. If you ask me, this time, it's most likely that they've done some shameful things. If our brothers can bring out all the mess in their sect, we'll earn a lot. Zhao Shaoji smiled at Big Head Shi and said, I say, Brother Shi, why do you still have such thoughts? Can't you see how powerful the puppets refined by their Divine Fire sect are? Wouldn't it be suicide for us brothers to go against them? Big Head Shi's eyes widened as he said in a daze, So what? I have long disliked them. If I can deal with these people, it will be a good thing for the people. Zhao Shaoji was considered an old acquaintance of his and knew his bad temper, so he comforted him. All right, he is generous. Let's exchange the treasures on our body for money to earn him. As for other things, we can discuss them later. After holding the stone for a long time, his anger subsided a little. Li Yuanqing sat at the side and listened quietly as the two of them spoke. When the two of them talked about this, they would always glance at Li Yuanqing from time to time. Although he didn't mention Li Yuanqing in every sentence, It was as if he wanted Li Yuanqing to participate. The two of them had been talking for a while now, but Li Yuanqing had not said a word. "Brother Zhao, do you want to sell something to these red-haired ghosts?" After Li Yuanqing went outside, he transformed back into his skinny appearance and became Zhao Tian again. Big Head Sure casually put the heavenly star hammer aside and took out a small gourd. He gently drank a mouthful of immortal wine and asked seemingly unintentionally. Li Yuanqing smiled cautiously and looked at the two of them. "El heard that these red-haired ghosts are now buying the fire spirit fruit at a high price, so I brought them here to try. How many did Brother Zhao bring?" As Big Head Sure said this, he couldn't help but lean forward. Li Yuanqing covered his storage bag and said hesitantly, "Have 100 of them on me. I heard that they can be sold for 5 spirit stones at his place." 100. When Big Head Sure heard Li Yuanqing's answer, he immediately felt a little dejected. The two of them looked at each other and made a brief eye contact. However, Li Yuanqing saw through their little action, which they thought was safe. Big Head Sure smiled as he played with his heavenly star hammer. "Brother Zhao, it's not easy for you to come all the way here, and you even have so many fire spirit fruits with you. I heard that they have to wait for a few hours before they can officially start trading after the market opens. Is that so?" Li Yuanqing pretended not to know anything and asked, "Aren't we supposed to sell the stuff there?" Zhao Shaoji replied seriously, "You don't know, but these sects have their own market rules. It's not that simple." "That's right. They're very troublesome. They're always long-winded about everything. I heard that they still have to inspect the market today. I don't know how long they'll be busy." The two of them were singing in unison. The meaning behind their words was almost clear. They clearly wanted to persuade Li Yuanqing to leave. Li Yuanqing also understood and followed their meaning and asked, "But I can only leave from the east gate for half a day. If I delay for too long, what should I do?" Big Head Sure's expression changed slightly. After being busy for so long, he had finally fooled this kid. He and Zhao Shaoji looked at each other again. Zhao Shaoji went forward with great concern and asked Li Yuanqing, "Brother, are you in a hurry to go back? Then you're in trouble." "Brother, what should I do?" Zhao Shaoji and Shi Datu pretended to think for a long time. The two of them looked very helpless, as if they couldn't think of a way. "Brother, this is indeed troublesome. If you really can't do it, then let's go next time. Their market isn't only open for today." Zhao Shaoji looked very regretful as he said, "But brother, it's not easy for you to be so far away from here. It would be a pity if you came back empty-handed." Li Yuanqing suddenly took down the simple storage bag on his waist and said in distress, "It wasn't easy to save up these Lu fire spirit fruits. I wanted to exchange them for 5 spirit stones to buy a medicinal pill. Old Zhao, look at how pitiful Brother Zhao is. If there's really no other way, the two of us brothers will help Brother Zhao sell this fire spirit fruit. At that time, we'll just give the spirit stones to Brother Zhao." Big Head Sure said to Zhao Shaoji with a generous look. Zhao Shaoji was in a difficult position. "Brother Sure, it's just that we've come across each other in the water. If Brother Zhao gives us 100 fire spirit fruits for no reason, no one will be at ease." "So what? If Brother Zhao and I are like old friends, if you don't want to, I'll take care of this matter. As long as Brother Zhao gives the order, I'll help you." Big Head Sure was so generous that Li Yuanqing was touched. He directly handed his storage bag to Big Head Sure. "Brother Sure, I'll leave the fire spirit fruit to you. It's fine. Leave this matter to me. We'll meet again at the original place 3 days later." "Then I have 2 brothers." After Li Yuanqing finished speaking, he bowed slightly to the two of them. Immediately after, he flashed and landed in the forest behind him. He retreated along the path he had taken earlier. After Big Head Sure and Zhao Shaoji saw Li Yuanqing leave, they went on their way. The two of them stopped in a small valley a few miles ahead. The two of them held Li Yuanqing's storage bag with disdain in their eyes. "I say, Brother Sure, aren't we being a little too desperate? We're willing to kill a target of 100 fire spirit fruits." Zhao Shaoji still couldn't bear to see this. "I think that fellow has probably been storing these fire spirit fruits for a period of time. Isn't it inappropriate to cheat them just like that?" Big Head Sure grinned and revealed a strange smile. He looked at Zhao Shaoji and asked, "Brother Zhao, when did you become so merciful? If I remember correctly, you can even kill women and children. Why would you pity such a nameless fellow? Zhao Shaoji couldn't help but laugh and shake his head. I'm just thinking that this guy is only at the peak of the array formation realm at this age. He wants to rely on these Lu fire spirit fruits as his life-saving straw. Buying such a low-quality pill and thinking that he could advance to the supreme realm was really pitiful. After he finished speaking, the two of them could not help but laugh. There were 100 fire spirit fruits placed in front of them, and the two of them split them in half. Not far behind the two of them, there was a tall tree with a crown. Li Yuanqing sat cross-legged on the ground, silently watching them. Just let people, this little bit of mind has long been frozen where, from one start they too flattery time, Li Yuanqing heart already alert. In the end, the two of them had exposed too many flaws along the way. It was difficult not to see through them. Li Yuanqing took out Lu fire spirit fruits to numb the two of them and make them obediently lead the way in front. It also saved him a lot of trouble. As expected, after the two of them distributed the fire spirit fruit, they still wanted more. After a simple discussion, they continued to rush forward. The spirit stones sold for the fire spirit fruit would probably never be given to their brother Zhao again. After walking for another 10 miles, an extremely desolate valley suddenly appeared in front of them. The valley was covered in charred black soil, and there were wisps of green smoke coming out of it. It had just been burned by someone. The valley that was 10 miles long was originally very wide. Now that it was burned clean, the field of vision was clear. The front and back of the valley were clearly seen. The top of the valley was filled with fiery red guards. Those guards looked very strange. They were wearing very simple red armor. It was unknown what material the armor was made of, but it was simple red. Under the armor was still the color of flames, as if the people below were burning with flames, covering their faces. It was also like a layer of illusion, so their faces could not be seen clearly. There were hundreds of guards guarding the area, especially at the entrance of the valley. There were 2 rows of red spears guarding the entrance. Among these armored guards, there was a man with a round figure and red tattoos on his skin standing in the middle, examining the 2 people who had just arrived. This is a small token of our appreciation. Big Head Sure took out 10 pieces of fire spirit fruit and gently placed them in front of the man. The man did not lower his head. His lips were pursed into a strange angle. The expression on his face did not seem to change, but it also seemed to have changed a little. Yes. After a while, the fat man finally made a very short sound. Big Head Sure was relieved of a heavy burden and bowed deeply. The 2 of them hurriedly slipped past him. Fortunately, this fellow isn't that greedy. Otherwise, he would have spat out all the fire spirit fruits that the kid offered us. Just as the 2 of them were feeling smug, they suddenly heard a voice behind them. Please come in. The 2 of them looked behind them in confusion. The man guarding there just happened to raise his head, and his gaze met theirs. The man was still nodding and bowing with a smile on his face, but when he saw the 2 of them, his expression became stern again. Although the 2 of them found it strange, they did not dare to stay any longer. They hurriedly rushed to the lively place in front. The valley was divided into 3 areas. The most lively area was naturally the place where raw materials were traded. This place was filled with all kinds of fruits and spiritual herbs. There were also ores made of special materials. The sound of hawking could be heard endlessly. Moreover, this area was right in front of the entrance, so the 2 of them naturally followed suit. The other 2 areas were slightly calmer, but they were also surrounded by quite a number of people. There were some stalls there, selling pills on the left and selling equipment on the right. Unlike the black market outside, the stalls here were all set up by people from the Divine Fire sect. What do you mean? You dare to pass off inferior goods as good? A commotion suddenly broke out in the middle of the raw materials area. A dozen guards were holding a skinny man who was lying on the ground with his head pressed down. What are you doing? Why did you capture me? The man lay on the ground and kept shouting. Let go of me. You're slandering me. I'll sue you. The man kept shouting, but the power in his body did not decrease at all. He began to hope that the surrounding onlookers would look around. However, no one dared to take a step forward. The people who came and went formed a circle. Facing the inside, this guy pointed and guessed why he was treated like this. Everyone. They framed me. I brought the best fire spirit fruits. What right do they have to frame me like this? You can't just watch them frame me like this, he shouted, and his gaze finally fell on the tall and burly Sher Datu. Big Head Sher looked to the side in confusion. This person's gaze undoubtedly fell on him. Brother, why are you looking at me? You sold fake fire spirit fruits to others, and now you've been caught red-handed. Everyone's eyes are bright. No one will stand on your side. Everyone is here to do business, so there's no need to be unhappy. After Big Head Sher finished speaking, the people around him nodded in agreement. This was also the attitude of most of them. Brother, you have to believe me. The fire spirit fruits I took are all the best. There's absolutely no fake. Come on, it's useless for you to say these things to me. If you want to say it, you have to tell them. They've already caught you red-handed. What's the point of saying these things? That's right. You were caught red-handed, and now you want to get away with it. How can it be so good? Just accept some punishment. They won't make things difficult for you, even if they open their doors to do business. Why are you so stubborn? Hurry up and apologize. Everyone is still waiting to sell their things. Don't delay them here. A man walked out from behind the hand cleaners. He was 7 feet tall and wore a fiery red robe that fell to the ground. He also wore a pointy crown on his head. His attire made him look like a blazing fire. With every step he took, the flames kept twisting. The man's face was red, and the most special thing was his lips. They were so red that they were about to turn purple. His eyes were even brighter, making people not dare to look straight at him. Venerable. After the man appeared, the ordinary disciples of the divine fire sect bowed to him. The man said slowly, "How dare you cause trouble in the territory of my divine fire sect? If I spare you, where will my divine fire sect lose face?" This person's voice was the one who had ordered the arrest. It was clearly him. The man on the ground was still shouting, "You're talking nonsense. I brought the best fire spirit fruit, but you insist that my fire spirit fruit is inferior." The Venerable waved his sleeve and slapped the man's face heavily. A red palm print immediately appeared on his face. Half of his face swelled up, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. Even when he opened his mouth, his 2 molars rolled out, making him look miserable. "You, what about me?" The man's expression turned cold, and he suddenly ordered, "Take him away. What right do you have to imprison a person? You." He was about to shout again when suddenly, flames shot out from the spears held by the 5 guards beside him. These flames constantly extend and become 5 ropes, bind him to honestly bind him in the middle, and after a while, Kung Fu becomes a big dumpling. At first, the big dumpling was still twisting, but it gradually quieted down. The 5 guards held the big dumpling above their heads and walked back with firm steps in the direction of their camp. The onlookers did not expect him to make such an arrangement. Although this person might have taken a defective product, he was caught red-handed and could have been punished slightly. Why did he have to capture him? Someone was puzzled by this and could not help but ask, "Although this Venerable has done something wrong, you don't have to control him, right? Can you tell me where you want to send him?" Everyone stared at this Venerable. They were also worried. This Venerable suddenly revealed a smile. Since it could be seen that he wanted to smile normally, that smile always felt a little sinister in people's eyes. "Why do you ask? We're here to do business, but how can we be at ease with your actions?" "That's right. Where are you going to send him? If you don't explain this matter clearly, we won't sell the fire spirit fruit here." Seeing that these people had the intention to gather together, the smile on the Venerable's face gradually disappeared, as if he was about to get angry. However, he forcefully suppressed it. He still forced himself to maintain that strange smile as he explained to everyone, "It's reasonable for everyone to have such concerns. Then I'll explain it clearly to everyone." He pointed to the camp behind him and said to everyone, "If he is here, the troublemaker will be temporarily detained by us and released after the end of this transaction, so as to prevent him from causing trouble again and affecting everyone's transaction. Our divine fire sect naturally won't do anything out of line to him. Please rest assured." After listening to his explanation, although everyone outside had their own thoughts, most of them accepted this explanation. Big Head Sher smiled contemptuously and said, "I think it's a good thing to teach these troublemakers a lesson." The Venerable looked at Big Head Sher, and smiled in satisfaction. Fellow Taoist, you're a reasonable person. If there were more people like you, it would be much easier for our sect to open its doors and do business. Since no one has any doubts, then this transaction will continue. Don't let that little episode just now dampen your interest. The trading session resumed, and the materials area became lively again. Everyone dispersed and went to the small shops to negotiate the price of the materials they took out. However, there was one person beside him who kept looking in the direction of the camp. This person was Li Yuanqing. He clearly felt that the fellow was wrapped in the fire cocoon just now, and his chi stage was already very weak. It was even possible that they would be directly tied up by those ropes, forcefully trapping their divine senses to death. Although Li Yuanqing's cultivation was not at the supreme realm, his consciousness was abnormally strong. He felt that something was amiss. However, no one felt that there was anything wrong with it. They were all extremely happy as they sold their fruits, their faces filled with excitement. One had to know that to be able to get such a high price steadily, and to purchase such a large number of fire spirit fruits here, such a beautiful thing would only happen once in a few years. They wished they could take out all the private goods they had hidden in their hands and sell them now. Big Head sure didn't have much stock, only 400 or 500. It seemed like he had sneakily swindled them from somewhere these few days. Li Yuanqing had originally wanted to trade some items here, but after what had happened just now, he suddenly became vigilant and pressed down on his treasures. He looked at the guards standing at the side and saw them clearly. These guys were clearly puppets, and their strength seemed to be at the first level of the supreme realm. These puppets did not have much aura on them, and they were completely covered by the flames outside, so it was difficult for ordinary people to detect them. However, Li Yuanqing had an outstanding skill in puppet refinement. He could roughly tell from the movements of these fellows. No wonder this sect was so generous. If they could refine puppets of such strength on a large scale to serve as guards, it would indeed be able to greatly increase the strength of the sect. It was just that along the way with Big Head Sure and the others, he did not hear them mention this matter. According to the two of them, the Divine Fire sect was good at refining puppets. However, most of them won in quantity. They were all small puppet beasts. However, there were so many human-shaped puppets, and their strength was extraordinary. It was completely different from what the two of them had said. Just as Li Yuanqing was in deep thought, a strange movement suddenly came from the side. A few guards surrounded a stall. "What are you doing? These fire spirit fruits of mine are definitely the purest. It's impossible for them to be fake. Don't frame me." It was Big Head and Zhao Shaoji. At this moment, they were surrounded by the guards. In front of them was a Divine Fire sect disciple who was holding a fire spirit fruit and looking at them with an unfriendly expression. "You guys are still trying to quibble. The fire spirit fruit was clearly brought over by you guys. How is this a ripe fire spirit fruit? It's clearly 2 months away. You're talking nonsense. These fire spirit fruits of mine are all top-notch goods. Stop talking nonsense here. Take a look at me, or I'll take a look." As Big Head Sure spoke, he went up and wanted to take back his map. However, that person dodged in time and directly dodged. "You dare to sell fake goods here and want to take them back. Aren't you thinking too simply? You're slandering me. That fruit isn't mine at all." Big Head Sure suddenly changed his words, and the people around him could not stand it anymore. "Brother, just now, you insisted that your fruits were all good. Now, you say that they aren't. Aren't you feeling guilty? Just apologize to him and forget about it." "How can we forget about it? Just now, he asked him for help, and he saw him being taken away. I think this guy should be sent to the back to be properly educated. Otherwise, his acting would be very convincing." Big Head Sure slowly retreated, but the guards behind him had already surrounded him. He had nowhere to retreat. "What are you doing? I'm from a large sect. If you dare to attack me, do you believe that your Divine Fire sect won't be able to protect it?" The clamor immediately attracted the venerable from before. That person dragged his red robe and slowly walked over from the crowd to stand in front of Big Head Sure. "What's wrong?" He looked around and asked slowly. "Venerable one, this person is selling fake fire spirit fruits here." "What fake? That wasn't mine at all. Don't think that I didn't know that you exchanged my fruit. How should we deal with him?" The Venerable raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Big Headshire with regret. Thought you were a person who knew the big picture. I didn't expect you to do such a dirty thing. Venerable One, this is all a misunderstanding. Let me explain. This is all a misunderstanding. Take him down and send him to the camp at the back. There's no need to say anything else. Venerable One, listen to me. This is all fake. That fruit is not mine. He still wanted to beg, but the other party did not listen to him at all. A few guards behind him directly surrounded him in the middle and pressed him to the ground with spears, just like the person just now. You can't do this to me. Big Head sure wanted to shout, but Zhao Shaoji quietly moved around, trying to slip into the crowd. Suddenly, a few guards blocked his way. Zhao Shaoji looked innocently at the surrounding guards and explained, "What does this have to do with me? I don't know him." However, his words were useless. The guards behind him also picked him up. 2 large red dumplings were wrapped up and carried by the guards to the tent at the back. Li Yuanqing silently looked in the direction of the battle. The 2 of them still had his fire spirit fruit with his mark. The Venerable looked helplessly at the people beside him and coldly snorted, warning them. Our divine fire sect is so generous to accept your fire spirit fruit. I didn't expect that so many of you would still want to bluff your way through. The cultivators on the periphery immediately defended themselves. Venerable, don't misunderstand. Those opportunistic people. We're all here to do business sincerely. You're right. We're not that kind of people. Venerable, don't take a partial view. I don't think the 2 of them are good people. It's a good thing to chase them out now. The supremacy of the divine fire sect looked at everyone's reaction as if he was very helpless and shook his head silently. I didn't expect to meet so many people who don't follow the rules today. I think there should be only a few of them. Since everyone has promised, I won't make a fuss. I only hope that such a thing won't happen again. After he finished speaking, he retreated again. However, before he left a glance at his subordinates. Li Yuanqing felt that something was wrong. The fruit in that guy's hand was indeed not ripe, but how could a smart person like Big Head sure fake it in such a place? Was he that stupid? While the people outside continued to gather around the stall to trade, Li Yuanqing unknowingly retreated to the entrance of the valley and left without a word. A team of 10 guards carried the 2 fiery red dumplings and walked into the tent at the back in an orderly manner. From the front, this was quite normal. However, if one looked from the back, one would realize that all the tents they had set up here were fake. They had only put up some shelves and placed them here. They were basically useless. After the guards carried the 2 of them into the camp, they walked all the way back. In front of them was a pitch-black cave. It was like a passage behind them. It was pitch black inside, and no one knew where it led to. These guards walked into the passage in unison and disappeared after a while. Another guard walked past them and took their place. Li Yuanqing followed the marks on Big Headshire and Big Headshire's bodies and quietly touched a nearby high spot. He happened to see this scene in front of him. On the other side of the market, there were still many people, and they were still trading in full swing. Little did they know that there was such a trap waiting behind them. Today, so many unlucky people had fallen into this trap. Amidst the rubble, Li Yuanqing stretched out 2 fingers, holding a thumb-sized toy between them. Although the little thing looked quite small, it was actually a human-shaped puppet. The little puppet had 2 wings as thin as a cicada's wings on its back. However, at this moment, its eyes were tightly shut as it lay quietly without moving. Li Yuanqing stretched out his left index finger and gently pressed it on the little one's forehead. The forehead of the little person flickered. When Li Yuanqing removed his finger, the thumb-sized person slowly opened his eyes. The tiny person opened its eyes and jumped into Li Yuanqing's palm. After slowly moving its body, it completely adapted to its body. Then, the little fellow flapped its wings a few times and leaped into the air. Chase after them. Following Li Yuanqing's command, the small puppet flew out through the cracks in the rocks and slowly descended, finally landing in front of the deep cave. Without hesitation, he flew into the top of the cave. On the other side, the scene in front of him appeared in front of Li Yuanqing. At first, the cave entrance was very narrow and dark. There was nothing to see, just like an abandoned cave. After walking for about 100 meters, there was suddenly a light in front of them. It was a very bright intersection. The little person stopped at the intersection. There were two passages on the left and right. This passage was very wide and was embedded with lustrous stones. The bright light illuminated the entire passage as if it was daytime. The little person landed at the intersection and looked left and right. These two passages were very long and had a certain arc. The people who had just come here could no longer be found. The little puppet flapped its wings and pushed its body to the top, sticking to the top wall. He leaned against the wall and put one ear against it, listening slowly. After a while, the little person suddenly looked at the passage on the right and flapped its wings to chase after him. The little person flew very fast and caught up with them in a short while. They could vaguely see the guards in front of them. The 10 of them were still carrying the two big dumplings and slowly walking forward. Under the heavy package, the two people inside were already dead. However, there was one more person standing in front of the guards. This person was dressed in a fiery red Taoist robe, holding a black flag in his hand as he walked forward absent-mindedly. From time to time, he would look back and urge the guards behind him to move forward. However, these guards all walked in the same way. There was no difference, and no one stopped to slack off. This person had two storage bags hanging on his hands and was playing with a huge meteor hammer, even commenting on it. These two fellows have some benefits on them. The ones sent in front are all old poor ghosts who can't get anything. He seemed to be quite interested in Big Head Sure's Heavenly Star Hammer, so he simply hung it on his back and rummaged through Big Head Sure's storage bag. When the man had given the treasures he had just obtained to the celebration, they had just arrived at their current destination. He led the guards behind him and stopped in front of a fiery red door. Speaking of which, the buildings here seemed to be covered with a layer of fiery red color. The color was like the paint on the back of the cave, but it also had the texture of flames, flowing slowly and freely. On the door, there was a triangular pattern. In the center of the pattern was a very mysterious symbol. It was unknown if it referred to something. The man put away all the things he had just obtained, then tidied up his clothes. Finally, he raised the small black flag in his hand and waved it gently in front of the door. The flag waved in front of the door, and the door opened. The man slowly walked into the room. The guards behind him carried the two of them in. "Celestial Master Wang, I heard that you're free now. There are two new ones here. Can you take a look at them?" Outside, the man still looked bored and idle, but once he entered the room, he immediately became spirited. His eyes widened, and his expression was tense. With a very sincere smile, he bowed silently, not daring to raise his head. There was a stone platform in the room. At this moment, he was still 3 zhang long and 3 zhang wide. He was square and had many patterns carved on it. Beside the stone platform, a white-robed man with fluttering black hair was sitting cross-legged. A faint blood-red mist slowly rose from his body. The blood-red mist was right beside him. After circling around the lotus flower that had been painted with flames above his head, it slowly fell down and was absorbed into his body. The cycle repeated like breathing. It was very rhythmic. The man didn't answer immediately when he heard the announcement from outside. He just kept breathing in and out. The person who came to report did not dare to be anxious when he saw this. He only waited there respectfully. After a while, the person called Heavenly Master Wang finally dispersed the lotus flower on his head and slowly opened his eyes. In his eyes, a blood-red lotus flower slowly disappeared. "Bring it in. Let me take a look." The disciples of the divine fire sect outside were relieved. They hurriedly waved the small flag in their hands and waved it at the guards behind them. The guards obeyed and walked in at the same time. They slowly placed the two bodies on the stone platform and then stood on both sides, waiting for Celestial Master Wang's instructions. The disciple of the divine fire sect respectfully handed over the 2 storage bags with a smile. "Heavenly Master Wang, look, these are all their treasures." Celestial Master Wang stretched out his slender fingers and casually waved them. The 2 storage bags fell in front of him. Items flew out from the storage bag and floated in the air. There were many materials, some spirit stones, and a few broken weapons. There was nothing valuable. Celestial Master Wang waved his hand again in boredom, and those things flew back obediently one by one. Why are all these people so poor now? They don't even have anything valuable on them. There's no other way. This is the way of the world. Celestial Master Wang snorted coldly and swept his gaze across him. I see that you inner sect disciples are very happy to take this job. The meaning in Celestial Master Wang's words was obvious, but the person in front of him was not flustered. It seemed that this was not the first time he had done such a thing. Heavenly Master Wang, what are you talking about? These are all our gifts to you. Celestial Master Wang did not continue to dwell on this issue. He casually threw the 2 storage bags aside. Humph. I'm not sure. All of you can leave. Don't disturb me for the next 4 hours. Understood. This person finally completed his task. He let out a long sigh and waved his small black flag. Then, he brought the 10 guards behind him and left the small house in an orderly manner. When he walked out, he finally let out the pent-up breath in his chest. It looked like there was still a lot of pressure. However, they had come quickly and left in a hurry, so they did not notice that in an inconspicuous corner, a thumb-sized humanoid puppet was hiding in a crack in the wall, secretly observing the situation inside. Celestial Master Wang stretched out his index finger. It was very slender, especially the long and narrow fingernail. It was like a sharp knife, cutting a line in the center of Shi Dadu's body. The rope wrapped around the outer layer was easily cut open, and finally shattered to the ground on both sides, revealing Big Head Shi's body. At this moment, Big Head Shi's body was completely clean. There was not even a piece of cloth left. All that was left was a strong body lying there with a slightly ruddy face. After all, he had just died not long ago. In addition, there was a layer of warm material wrapped around him, and his body was still steaming hot. Li Yuanqing looked at the scene before him. It was just as he had expected. Those who were captured were controlled by them on the spot. When they were wrapped up, all the auras on their bodies were isolated. No one knew that once this network that only included their entire bodies was formed, it would continuously release flames and burn them to death. The people on the periphery thought that they were only temporarily controlled. They did not know that their companions were already dead. Now that their bodies were sent here, they did not know what they wanted to do. This was the festering of the spiritual sense on Big Head's body, which had already been dissipated by the array just now. Only a trace of it was still wandering in the corner of his body. A powerful flame suddenly rose from the stone platform below. The scorching flame directly wrapped around the 2 of them and burned them continuously. These flames looked bright, but they were burning, making people feel a chill down their spines. In the fire, the divine senses hidden in the corners were also burned out. They were roasted by the flames and let out miserable roars. The dead souls that had been shattered into pieces let out miserable roars, as if they were purgatory on earth. When Celestial Master Wang saw this scene, his heart did not waver and his expression was very calm. He even pulled out a wisp of soul that wanted to escape and directly guided it into his mouth with his fingertip. Then, he gently gave it a tug. The wisp of soul was sucked into his mouth and swallowed. Celestial Master Wang pursed his lips and savored the aftertaste for a while. Then, a disgusted expression appeared on his face. The souls of these people are really stinky. He seemed to be regretting that he had absorbed this wisp of soul. He waved his hand and took out a white jade bottle. Then, he quickly poured a large mouthful of nectar into his mouth. After he drank this mouthful of wine, he seemed to feel much more comfortable. He let out a long sigh of relief. In just a short while, the flames on the stone platform had gradually subsided. After the flames dissipated, the bodies of the 2 people on the stage did not show any changes. They were exactly the same as before. However, the divine sense and souls that were hiding in them had been burned dry. Now, they were completely empty shells. Celestial Master Wang reached out and poked Big Head Shi's body. Feeling the touch, he walked to the side and waved his hand. A dozen bottles and jars appeared beside Big Head Shi. Celestial Master Wang placed the bottles and jars neatly and checked them carefully. There were a total of 18 bottles here, and each bottle was of different colors. Celestial Master Wang picked up a bottle of white tea from the far left and poured out some white powder from it. The white powder was very strange. When it was poured out, It was still in the form of powder and fell on Celestial Master Wang's hand. It seemed to have turned into a liquid, with a white and flowing texture like milk. Celestial Master Wang put down the small bottle and gently applied the white powder on his hands and his exposed arm. Their palms, which were already extremely pale, now turned even whiter, as if the white powder had absorbed all the blood in his body. After smearing it on his body, Celestial Master Wang's gaze finally fell on Big Head Sure. The next bottle was a small green bottle. He placed the small green bottle 1 foot above Big Head Sure's body and tilted the bottle slightly. Some green liquid slowly squirmed out from the bottle. The green liquid left the bottle and was about to fall into the air when it suddenly turned into powder and scattered in the sky. The powder seemed to have some kind of connection with Big Head Sure. It slowly turned into the shape of Big Head Sure's body and enveloped him. Just as Celestial Master Wang was about to put the bottle down, his eyes suddenly turned sharp. A black light shot out from his hand and pierced into a dark corner on his right. Li Yuanqing opened his eyes, and they shined brightly. He suddenly lifted his leg, and his body turned into a ray of light that disappeared into the horizon. Not long after, a group of red-robed disciples of the Divine Fire sect rose into the air and arrived at the place where Li Yuanqing had been hiding. Heavenly Master Wang is right. Someone has been here. Hurry up and report to the sect leader. The rest of you, follow me. They split into 2 teams in tacit understanding. 2 of them left the team and flew north. The others identified the direction and chased after Li Yuanqing. In the small room in the tunnel, Celestial Master Wang stood in front of a platform with many people gathered around him. On the platform in front of them was a puppet the size of a thumb. The puppet had been broken into 2 halves, and there was a large area of burns in the middle. Celestial Master, don't be anxious. They have already caught up. They will definitely bring her back to Tianshi in one piece. This person is so bold to dare trespass on the territory of my Divine Fire sect. Could it be that they already have some evidence? How is that possible? So far, we haven't received any news of any major sects taking action against us. They haven't reacted at all. But if it wasn't for the discovery of those large sects, how would we explain today's knowledge? That's true. However, we've always been well informed. If we want to take action, we'll definitely leak the news. They all looked a little nervous and frowned as they spoke. What you said is true. Those big sects are probably exaggerating. By the time they find out, we will have already completed our mission. Celestial Master Wang did not say a word. Some of the people around him were dressed similar to him. They were wearing casual Taoist robes, and some were wearing the Divine Fire sect's cloaks. They were disciples. These heavenly masters stood in the inner circle while the disciples stood guard outside, respectfully listening to the arrangements. Anyway, they've already gone to report to the sect master. There's no need for me to waste my time on these things. I should hurry up and refine more puppets. I should finish refining 10,000 puppets as soon as possible. They seem to have come to a conclusion after their discussion. After chatting for a while, they dispersed. As for the damaged puppet, it was left behind. Celestial Master Wang stared at the puppet and carefully sized it up. No one knew what he was thinking. After a long time, he raised his hand and put away the broken little fellow. Li Yuanqing's speed of escape was already extremely fast. The moment the puppet was exposed, he immediately ran away. However, even with his sharp reflexes, he could still feel a force constantly searching for him from behind. Li Yuanqing looked around carefully. As he ran forward, he suddenly took out a jade pendant. This jade pendant was given to him by Wang Lan the other day. This alchemist had left him this way to contact each other. Li Yuanqing gently pinched the jade pendant. A very three-dimensional map appeared in his mind. The place where Wang Lan lived was not too far from here. Sensing the approaching pursuer behind him, Li Yuanqing identified the direction and extended his wings to increase his speed. This was a continuous mountainous area with a few undulating peaks, forming a very orderly terrain. In the middle of this mountain, there were large patches of medicinal herbs. These medicinal herbs emitted a rich fragrance. Even from a great distance, one could clearly smell that rich fragrance. Li Yuanqing ran for a long time and finally arrived at this place. This Yin Mountain range was Wang Lan's dojo. Wang Lan was also a famous alchemist within this 1,000 miles. Although she usually had a bad temper, she had an extremely superb alchemy technique. She usually did not have many enemies. Moreover, he had quite a reputation, which was why he was able to plant so many medicinal herbs in such a large area without being robbed. Just as Li Yuanqing was about to enter the mountain range, a transparent barrier suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking him out. "Senior, please meet me for a moment." Li Yuanqing had already reverted to his original appearance. He stood in front of the mountain gate and looked inside uneasily. After a while, Wang Lan came out with disheveled hair. He looked at Li Yuanqing in surprise, as if he had not expected Li Yuanqing to take the initiative to look for him. "Little friend, could it be that you have the gigantic spirit fruit again?" Li Yuanqing replied, "Senior, I'm in some trouble. I wonder if you can take me in for half a day?" Wang Lan did not pay much attention to her earlier. After she calmed down, she immediately sensed the approaching pursuers behind her. He looked at Li Yuanqing a few times, and after some consideration, he generously gave up half of his body. "Don't walk around. I don't like people touching my things." "Thank you, Senior." In a flash, Li Yuanqing entered the mountain range behind him. Not long after, the pair of pursuers from the Divine Fire sect also found this place. They silently circled around the mountain range. "Senior brother, the aura of that person just now disappeared here. In my opinion, he must have entered here. But this is the dojo of that lunatic Wang Lan. That old fellow is not a good person. If we provoke him, we won't be able to bear the consequences. Can you still care so much at a time like this? What if the sect's secret was discovered by that madman Wang?" The lackeys at the back were muttering and fighting to go in and search, but because of Wang Lan's identity, they did not dare to do it openly. Just as they were hesitating, a crack the size of a man suddenly appeared in front of them. An old man in ragged clothes and reeking of alcohol walked out. The moment they saw Wang Lan, they were all frightened and subconsciously took a step back. Wang Lan's drunken eyes swept across them before she raised her head and took a big gulp of wine. She said impatiently, "Was wondering why it was so noisy outside. There was actually a group of flies." The disciple of the Divine Fire sect did not dare to lose his temper after being insulted by Wang Lan. His face was red, but he did not dare to refute. The senior brother in the lead closed his lips tightly and took a deep breath. He took a step forward and landed in front of Wang Lan. "Medicine Master Wang." As soon as he opened his mouth, Wang Lan's big mouth came into his face. The strong smell of alcohol almost made him faint. "What do you want to do? If you have something to say, say it. Don't stay here." The man was a little embarrassed by Wang Lan's display of power. He gritted his teeth and said, "Medicine Master Wang, our sect leader Jing, you are a genius, so we brothers respect you. If you dare to protect the criminals, you will be an enemy of my Divine Fire sect." Wang Lan put on a fearless expression and sneered as she looked at the disciples of the Divine Fire sect. "When your sect leader was adventuring outside, he always respectfully addressed me as senior. How could it be that it was your turn to put on airs in front of this old man? If you really believe that this old man has done something, then call Violet's spirit over. We personally saw that guy enter your mountain range. How can you deny it? If it wasn't for the sect master's instructions, we would have gone in and investigated by ourselves." The disciple behind him said this out of embarrassment, and the atmosphere froze for a moment. Wang Lan's carefree appearance from before also disappeared without a trace. An incomparably cold aura suddenly rose from her body. This aura was too powerful. It suppressed the disciples of the Divine Fire sect until they did not dare to move. "Dr. Wang, what do you want? We're just here for a routine search, but you're so obstructing us. Do you really want to make an enemy of my Divine Fire sect?" Apothecary Wang suddenly stretched out his hand like a ghost and disappeared. When he reappeared, there was a row of teeth in his hand. These disciples looked at the guy standing in the middle in panic. It was this guy who had said that sentence just now. At this moment, he stood there with his mouth full of blood and his face swollen like a pig's head. "Medicine Master Wang, you really dare to attack us?" The senior brother took out a black triangular flag and placed it in front of him. His cloak fluttered in the wind. Wang Lan looked at the flag and her nose twitched slightly. A trace of doubt appeared on her face. If you don't scram, I'll pull out all your teeth. As he spoke, he flipped over the dozen teeth in his hand and dropped them one by one. My teeth. The person whose face was swollen still knew how to chase down and catch all the broken teeth in his arms. So you really want to be enemies with our divine fire sect? So much nonsense. Good. Old man, just you wait. After he finished speaking, he waved his sleeve and put the three-horned chicken back. He turned around and led his brothers in another direction. In a short while, they disappeared. After sending off these uninvited guests, Wang Lan returned to her thatched hut where Li Yuanqing was waiting. Thank you for saving me, senior. Wang Lan raised her head and looked at Li Yuanqing. She did not answer, but walked to the table and poured 2 cups of spiritual tea. She took 1 cup and left. How did you get involved with the people from the Divine Fire sect? Although Wang Lan didn't expose him, with the recent rumors and Li Yuanqing's actions, he probably already had a rough guess. Li Yuanqing picked up the tea and took a sip. He replied, This junior has just arrived here, so I wanted to walk around and understand more. Coincidentally, the Divine Fire Gate was busy purchasing materials, so he came to take a look. Just take a look? Li Yuanqing suddenly stood up and walked behind Wang Lan. Senior, we have a question that we are very puzzled about. Wang Lan added more tea to his cup and drank it in 1 gulp. The cup disappeared from his hand. Tell me, what did you find on those fellows from the Divine Fire sect? Li Yuanqing looked at Wang Lan in surprise. He did not expect Wang Lan to be so unrestrained and unruly. It seemed that she was quite familiar with the outside world. When I was at the Divine Fire sect's market, I saw them forcefully dragging people away. I was curious, so I let a puppet follow them into the cave. In the end, I discovered that there was a wide passageway behind the market. There were countless rooms inside, and there seemed to be some abnormal behavior going on in those rooms. You also know puppet techniques? Wang Lan raised her eyebrows and turned around to look at Li Yuanqing. I only know a little. Wang Lan pursed her lips and sat down at the table. What did you see after that? They lied that those people were selling fake fire spirit fruits and then forcefully controlled them. However, when those people reached the tunnel, their souls had already scattered. So, they placed them on a large stone platform and the so-called Taoist master was refining their corpses. What? When Wang Lan heard this, she suddenly glared at Li Yuanqing. What did you say? What this junior said is true. This junior saw it with my own eyes. Otherwise, they wouldn't have chased after us so anxiously. Wang Lan took out the cup in bewilderment, poured a cup of tea, and gulped it down. You're saying that someone tricked those wandering cultivators into trading with them, but in reality, they killed them and refined their corpses. Indeed. What else did you see? Other than that, there's nothing else. Just as I was about to continue watching, someone discovered my movements and destroyed the puppet. That puppet of yours can already see enough. Wang Lan's gaze fell on Li Yuanqing. If what you said is true, and they practice corpse refinement, then their heavenly masters are top-notch puppet masters, and you actually stole them for so long. Li Yuanqing felt a knot in his heart. Just as he was about to explain, Wang Lan suddenly shifted her gaze. However, I have been very puzzled recently. The Fire Gate has suddenly become very high profile and is purchasing fire spirit fruits and other fire attribute materials in large quantities. They seem to have a very urgent need for fire attribute spiritual energy. Does Senior have any evidence now? Wang Lan shook her head slightly. I don't have any evidence. I was just suspicious at first. I didn't really want to question them. However, according to what you said, they have committed a great taboo. Then why don't we just tell these things to those large sects? That's useless. Then are we not going to do anything? Watching those rogue cultivators being tricked into the fire pit? There's no way to do it. Wang Lan suddenly reached out and brushed her hand across the table. A wooden box appeared on the small wooden table. I wonder if little friend is willing to come with me to meet an old friend? Ever Peace Mountain range was vast, extending 300 miles from north to south. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was dense, the soil was fertile, and there were several large spirit veins lying across the ground. This fertile land of resources did not belong to any large family, but was occupied by a group of itinerant cultivators. Wang Lan seemed to be very familiar with this place. She did not encounter any obstacles along the way with Li Yuanqing. They slowly came to the depths of the mountain range, in front of an extremely ordinary mountain. If Li Yuan were to go in and look for it, he would probably go over the wrong mountain because he couldn't see anything special about it. Senior, could it be here? Li Yuanqing and Wang Lan stood at the foot of the mountain. Wang Lan was looking up at the mountain with a face full of emotion. Yes, this mountain looks extremely ordinary, and the density of spiritual energy is not top-notch. It can even be said to be a little thin. Why did that senior choose this place? Hearing Li Yuanqing's doubts, Wang Lan revealed a rare smile. This is how he is. He has abandoned all distracting thoughts in this world to be able to have such an open-minded mind. Wang Lan said with emotion, but Li Yuanqing could not quite understand. What cultivators pursued was nothing more than powerful strength. It was said that cultivating the heart was a very profound knowledge, but no matter what, the acquisition of spiritual power in the physical body was always the most important. Let's go up. He's already waiting. As Wang Lan spoke, she took the lead and stepped onto the path up the mountain. Li Yuanqing had just taken a step when a familiar voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Congratulations on successfully signing in to Everpeace Mountain Range. You have received a reward. Reward 1. Spiritual Power Infusion. Reward 2. Immortal World Artifact Refining Codex. Li Yuanqing raised his head and looked at Wang Lan, who had already walked several tens of feet forward. This was not a good time to infuse Ling power. Although Li Yuanqing was in urgent need of a large amount of energy, the current timing was indeed a little too hasty. Reward 2 selected. Congratulations on obtaining the Immortal World Artifact Refining Codex. Li Yuanqing's eyes flashed, and an extremely thick book appeared in front of him. The book casually flipped open a chapter and landed somewhere in the middle. On it was a long spear that was emitting flames. With a casual wave of his hand, he kept the thick and heavy book in his arms. Wang Lan, who was in front of him, happened to turn around and look at him. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you coming over? Senior doesn't need to worry about me. I will follow. Follow closely. The array formation inside is complicated and not as simple as you think. Thank you for your advice, Senior. Li Yuanqing didn't delay after receiving the book and directly rushed over to Wang Lan. After the two of them went up the mountain, they kept walking on some very strange roads. They no longer walked on the small roads beside them. Instead, they kept drilling into the deep bushes. The strange thing was that although the bushes looked very lush from the outside, they seemed to have blocked the road. However, as soon as he walked in, he felt that the space around him seemed to have become much wider, as if the plants had split up on their own. Li Yuanqing looked at the road under his feet as he walked. He was very interested in this array formation. From the moment he entered, he had discovered some traces of an array. However, the designer of this array was very advanced. The overall design was very obscure, and the performance was not very outstanding. Although Li Yuanqing's attainments in array formations could be unrivaled in the world when he was in the lower realm, it was somewhat insufficient after he arrived in the immortal world. He could probably only be considered an entry-level array master. He tried his best to look, but the more he looked, the more strenuous it became. His footsteps slowed down a lot. In the end, he simply stopped and did not want to waste any more energy. The two of them followed the non-existent path up the mountain for an unknown amount of time. Li Yuanqing felt as if they had spent a very long time inside. The fog outside was gradually getting thicker. Only then did Li Yuanqing remember that when they walked in just now, the mountain looked clear and bright. The sunlight shone on it, making the plants on it look green. However, as he walked up step by step, his appearance completely changed. This mountain was no longer the same mountain he had seen just now. The peak of the mountain had been so high when they were at the foot of the mountain just now. It was still so high when they were halfway up the mountain. It seemed that its position had always been stuck above their heads and had never moved. Li Yuanqing was even more curious about the designer of this array. He wondered what kind of array master could design such a silent array. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew from the front, hitting the two of them and the plants beside them. The flowers, grass, and branches twisted their bodies crazily, swinging their long vines towards the two of them. Wang Lan didn't dodge or dodge. He didn't even have a spiritual energy shield on his body. He allowed the branches to hit his body, making a clear sound. Li Yuanqing stood behind Wang Lan and was slightly better off. However, the seniors in front of him did not summon a shield, so he was embarrassed to do so. He could only bear it carefully. A moment later, the wind suddenly increased in intensity, using the branches to attack the two of them even more violently. Wang Lan raised her head and looked in the direction of the wind. Suddenly, she shouted, "Huafeng, it has been so many years, but you still don't want to see me?" The wind in front gradually calmed down. Li Yuanqing curiously stuck out half of his head and looked ahead. It turned out that the guy inside was called Huafeng. It seemed that the two of them still had some grudges. It was better not to be too serious. Otherwise, how could they invite him out of the mountain? A seal suddenly turned around and circled in front of the two of them, gently blowing on their faces. Li Yuanqing felt an extremely hot breath caressing his face. Then, a voice sounded in his ear, as if it was brought by the gust of wind. "You guys can leave. I don't welcome you here." That person's voice was very cold, directly rejecting the two of them outside the door. Not only did Wang Lan not retreat, but he took another step forward. A gust of wind formed under his feet, as if it wanted to blow him away. He fearlessly puffed out his chest and looked straight into the deepest part of the fog. "Firewind, you've always thought of yourself as benevolent and righteous. Now that a large number of rogue cultivators outside have been controlled by the evil devils and have been framed and refined into corpse puppets, how can you just stand by and watch and say such resolute words?" The sound of the wind under Wang Lan's feet had been weakened by quite a bit, but the words of the person in front of her were still cold. "Wang Lan, don't give me that. I know what kind of person you are. If those rogue cultivators really threatened you, why would you care so much? Huafeng, I was wrong back then, but it's been more than 1,000 years. Can't you just let it go? Don't tell me this. Please go back. No matter what you say, it has nothing to do with me." Wang Lan seemed to have expected him to say this. She directly pushed Li Yuanqing to the front and pointed at Li Yuanqing. "No, you don't believe me, but this young man was the one who discovered this. He's now being targeted by the Shan Tiger sect. If no one protects him, he'll definitely die. I can leave, but I want to keep him here." Li Yuanqing looked at Wang Lan with a puzzled expression. This was not the plot that they had discussed in advance. He had not mentioned it at all just now. Why did they sell themselves out here? They weren't a good team, and now they wanted to keep him here. Li Yuanqing did not even know what kind of person that person was. "Don't give me that. No matter what you do, your matters have nothing to do with me." However, Wang Lan acted as if she didn't hear him and pressed Li Yuanqing down. She turned around and retreated. In a short while, she disappeared without a trace. After he left, he whispered in Li Yuanqing's ear, "This elder Huafeng is soft-hearted. You just need to report the truth, and he will uphold justice for you." Li Yuanqing really didn't expect this to happen. Wang Lan changed quickly. He had originally said that he was here to meet an old friend, but he did not expect this to be the way he met. "Senior." Li Yuanqing looked at the path that had disappeared behind him, and his face could not help but twitch twice. At this moment, the bamboo forest behind him suddenly separated into a small path. A voice behind him said to him, "If you want to leave, go now. I have an old grudge with Wang Lan. I don't want to involve these players in other people's matters. I don't think these things have anything to do with you." However, since things had already come to this, how could Li Yuanqing leave just like that? If he left just like that, he would still be on the Divine Fire Sect's name list. Moreover, those people from the Divine Fire Sect were still secretly doing those things. Li Yuanqing slowly turned around and looked into the depths of the fog before slowly sitting down cross-legged. "Senior, Junior, I really have something to ask of you today. I hope Senior can fulfill it. Little friend, if you have anything to say, you can go and look for the elders in your sect. Why did you come to my deep mountains and old forests to ask for help?"
Li Yuanqing explained.
"Have a low status in the sect, and may not be able to meet the seniors in the sect. Moreover, this matter is so urgent. If Senior can save people from danger, Why do you have to stand by and watch? You can't see the elders in the sect, and you came to me. What kind of logic is this? The Divine Fire sect secretly deceived people and killed them in front of everyone. They also used the evil corpse refining technique to turn them into puppets. If I don't find someone to tell this to, I'm afraid my conscience will be uneasy. A handful of dust flew out from the thick fog and swept towards Li Yuanqing's face. Li Yuanqing felt a wave of confusion when he swept his gaze across him. When he woke up, he realized that he was no longer where he was just now. The bamboo forest was originally behind him, but now it was in front of him. Let's go. Follow Wang Lan back. This old man has long stopped meddling in worldly affairs. Senior's magic treasure is truly exquisite. Li Yuanqing suddenly shifted his focus to the horsetail whisk. Hua Feng's voice paused for a moment before he chuckled and said, "Little friend, are you interested in practicing the arts of the celestial arms?" Li Yuanqing replied modestly, "Yes, I have some interests. Although I can't say that I'm proficient in it, I know a thing or two about it. I see that although Senior's magic treasure has spent a large amount of materials and the refining method is extremely brilliant, it's still one step behind. It lacks some spirituality." At this moment, Hua Feng, who was behind him, was puzzled. He had only used one move just now, but he did not expect this little fellow to be able to see so much. "You said that my floating dust lacks spirituality. Isn't that very strange? Do you know who I am? If I'm not mistaken, Senior must have a deep relationship with the fire refining pavilion." What a joke. There are many people in the entire immortal world who have a deep relationship with the fire refining pavilion. I dare to guess that Senior is an elder of the fire refining pavilion. The fire wind fell silent again. After a long time, it snorted coldly and said unhappily, "This old fellow has already told you everything and asked you to come over and make fun of me. Forget it. Forget it. You can go back first. I won't interfere in this matter." Hua Feng thought that Li Yuanqing and Wang Lan had already colluded with each other. Another wave of dust blew past Li Yuanqing, and he retreated again. He looked behind him for a long time and was about to reach the foot of the mountain. "Senior, don't you want to know how to complete this final step?" The horsetail whisk suddenly stopped in front of Li Yuanqing. The white and smooth animal fur was distinct and very transparent. The floating dust slowly fell, revealing an old man with white hair and a youthful face standing behind. This old man had a head full of white hair that draped over his back. He wore a pure white Taoist robe, and on the Taoist robe was a drawing of the edge of an alchemy furnace. However, the difference between the fire refining pavilion's pill furnace and the pill furnace was that the opening at the top was wider. The empty space inside was like a cylinder, while the opening at the top of the pill furnace in the pill pavilion was even smaller. It was to gather all the medicinal power in the furnace. The old man slowly put down the floating dust and sized up Li Yuanqing from left to right. His tall nose exhaled. Li Yuanqing could even see 2 wisps of white aura spreading in the air. "You're so young, and you're already speaking rudely. Do you know what kind of ending awaits those who speak arrogantly in front of this old man?" Li Yuanqing hurriedly bowed to the old man and explained, "Senior, this junior is definitely not deceiving Senior. This junior naturally has his reasons for saying this." What a good logic. "I don't believe that you can see the crux of my ups and downs with just 2 glances." The old man seemed to be very confident. He casually put the floating dust on his arm and looked at Li Yuanqing coldly. "What if this junior is lucky enough to see through it? Then I'll do as you say." Hua Feng's floating dust was called Bright Moon. As for why it was called that, he didn't say. He brought Li Yuanqing back to his cave abode and handed the horsetail whisk to Li Yuanqing. He sat at the side and closed his eyes to rest. Li Yuanqing placed the horsetail whisk in front of him and also sat down cross-legged to meditate. He looked as if he was doing nothing, but in fact, he was constantly flipping through the immortal world's artifact refining codex that he had just obtained. In that split second, he had seen the refinement method and characteristics of the horsetail whisk. According to the introduction, as a top-notch magic treasure, after being successfully refined, it would bring with it a kind of deterrence. On the other hand, although Li Yuanqing could sense a powerful force from the horsetail whisk, it was far from being a deterrent. That was why he had made such a statement. Fortunately, he was right. However, he needed to find out how to fix it. Huofeng opened one of his eyes and looked at Li Yuanqing. That little fellow had been like that for a long time. Did he plan to make a move? He gently waved his hand, and a warm wind blew across Li Yuanqing's face. Little guy, you're not planning to waste your time with me, are you? At this moment, Li Yuanqing's tightly knitted brows suddenly relaxed. He opened his eyes with a face of joy and looked at Huofeng. Found it. Find what? Although Senior's magic treasure has a spirit, it doesn't have a spirit. The crux of the problem was that this spirit body did not have a perfect medium to fuse into the entire magic treasure, so it was difficult to unleash its greatest effect. Oh. Huofeng raised his eyebrows slightly and pretended to be calm as he said, then according to what you said, my magic weapon has already been destroyed and there is no room for saving it. Li Yuanqing seemed to want to go back on his word, so he continued, Senior's magic treasure is a half-finished product left behind. It hasn't completed the final step of sealing, which means that Senior should know of this flaw. Is that so? How could I forget? Generally speaking, if a magic treasure is born from its own spirit body, there will be no problem of mutual rejection. However, if they were brought into the territory from the outside world, they would need the assistance of a medium. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to fuse them. Moreover, this process was irreversible. Once it started, there was no turning back. Li Yuanqing looked at Huofeng's face with his own eyes and twitched slightly. He had clearly hit his sore spot. When Senior first started refining, you should have thought that you had already found a suitable medium, but in the end, you failed, causing you to be stuck in this position where you were about to succeed, but you couldn't turn back. Li Yuanqing picked up the horsetail whisk and gently waved it twice. A blurry shadow appeared in the air. This figure was very thin, and the details could not be seen clearly. Only a simple outline was left. I don't think Senior has much time left, right? As Li Yuanqing spoke, he suddenly felt a huge force coming from the direction of Huofeng. The horsetail whisk in his hand was instantly sucked away and fell into Huofeng's arms. Huofeng's face was ashen. He glared at Li Yuanqing and stood up with a wave of his sleeve. If you have a way, I will help you. If you don't talk nonsense here and go back to where you came from. Senior, please calm down. Since this junior can see the problem, then there must be a solution. Humph. Xiaobei's words were too arrogant. With your strength, do you think you can solve it? Could it be that this old man has lived for thousands of years and has lived in a dog's stomach? Seeing that Huofeng was about to lose his temper, Li Yuanqing took the opportunity to say, if Senior didn't believe Junior, he wouldn't have let Junior in. When did I say that I believe you? As long as we find a material, with the medium in the material, the spirit body will be able to smoothly enter this magic treasure. At that time, the spirit weapon will fuse and nourish each other, and it will naturally be better. Then tell me, what kind of medium are you looking for? Heavenly soul incense. Huofeng's body suddenly froze. He stood there motionless with his back to Li Yuanqing. He was silent for a long time. Li Yuanqing did not know what his reaction was, so he could only stand there and wait quietly. After a while, Huofeng finally spoke again. Since you said you have such a method, then go and find me the heavenly soul incense. The thick ancient book in Li Yuanqing's mind showed a charred charcoal-like object. Below the charcoal was a huge topographic map with a light spot flickering. Li Yuanqing hesitated for a moment and pretended to be troubled. Senior, do you know that this heavenly soul incense is an extremely rare item? If you want to find it, I'm afraid you'll have to spend a lot of effort. How much effort do you need? Huofeng turned around and looked at Li Yuanqing in disbelief. He didn't know if this kid was too ignorant or if he really had such confidence. He had been searching for this heavenly soul incense for his entire life, but he still couldn't find it. Finally, he gave up on choosing to spend his last moments here with Mingyu. However, a kid suddenly jumped out in front of him and said that he only needed to spend some effort. Where exactly did you learn about the heavenly soul incense? Huofeng stepped forward and grabbed Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing did not know what his reaction was, so he explained, once saw it in Master's medical book. It said that this thing has the effect of balancing the spirit body. Who is your master? Tell me the truth, or I'll tear you into powder and refine you into a puppet. My master is already dead. Huafeng suddenly calmed down. He looked at Li Yuanqing with a changing expression. Then how do you know the whereabouts of the heavenly soul spear? With your strength at the peak of the array formation realm, do you think you can find the heavenly soul incense? Li Yuanqing finally understood. He had thought that this guy didn't know about such a material, but it turned out that he had searched everywhere to no avail. He smoothed out his clothes and coughed lightly. He said hesitantly, "At that time, it was a very coincidental opportunity. Moreover, the heavenly soul incense was in a very dangerous place. To be honest, I wasn't very confident that I could find it." "Then tell me where it is. I'll go find it." "Senior," Li Yuanqing suddenly reminded him, "you've already waited for thousands of years. Are you still in a hurry? There are hundreds and thousands of itinerant cultivators outside who have been murdered and refined into puppets. Do you want to care?" Huafeng's eyes, which were originally devoid of desire, suddenly seemed to have ignited with some kind of flame as they flickered slightly. He gently picked up the horsetail whisk and placed it on his forearm, his right hand gently rubbing it. "Mingyue," he called out in a low voice, as if he was calling out to his lover. The light on the horsetail whisk flickered slightly, and the hazy figure slowly appeared again. Li Yuanqing finally understood that the spirit body inside the horsetail whisk was most likely Huafeng's former dual cultivation partner. He didn't expect this senior to have such deep feelings for a soul that had passed away for so many years. Huafeng and the spirit body came together, their lips moving slightly as if they were whispering something. Li Yuanqing didn't dare to listen and stood to the side obediently. Not long after, Huafeng put away the horsetail whisk and hid it in his wide sleeve. "I know you're lying to me." Huafeng stared at Li Yuanqing's eyes. "HJH, but I don't care." Huafeng's words confused Li Yuanqing. "As long as there's a glimmer of hope, I won't give up. Since you're willing to tell me this news, it doesn't matter where you learned about this heavenly soul incense." After saying this, he walked into the cave. Li Yuanqing did not expect things to progress so smoothly. He took out his ancient book. Under the heavenly soul incense, the dot of light was still flickering on the complicated topographic map. If his guess was correct, this was the location of the heavenly soul incense. This general code was really useful. It even had a location for such a rare resource. Huafeng did not look like a bad person. After the matter was done, he would make a trip and help him find the heavenly soul incense. It could be considered as returning his favor. Li Yuanqing secretly made up his mind and put away the heavy ancient book again. At this time, an extremely hot aura came from the depths of the cave abode and hit Li Yuanqing's face directly. This aura was wrapped in a very dense fire attribute spiritual energy. The spiritual energy was so dense that it could not be dissolved. When it hit a person's body, it was as if they were scraped by a knife. Li Yuanqing was secretly shocked. What kind of flame could have such a high intensity? Even from so far away, he could feel it so clearly. "Come in and help." Suddenly, Huafeng's voice and Li Yuanqing's voice came from inside. Only then did they follow him. After passing through a passageway at the back and going down a long and narrow staircase, they arrived at a huge cavity in the middle of the mountain. In the center of this empty space was a huge furnace that was hundreds of feet tall. Below the roof was a circular tremor. At this moment, blue-purple flames were continuously spewing out from this hole, hitting the bottom of the furnace. The art of artifact refinement is mutually reinforcing and countering, Huafeng mumbled. The Divine Fire sect specializes in the fire attribute. The chain puppets should also be of the fire attribute. However, they were using flames, and the art of refining corpses was a demonic sect that could not be tainted with any yang qi. We only need to use the fire of the extreme yang to encircle and annihilate one of them. Li Yuanqing stood by the side and watched Huafeng's hands move up and down. He couldn't help but nod repeatedly. When Huafeng's movements stopped, the flames below gradually calmed down, and the fog rising from the furnace slowly dissipated. When the temperature of the cauldron had dropped by half, Huafeng waved his hand and took out 49 small golden sticks. These sticks all looked exactly the same and were very neat. They were stacked at Li Yuanqing's feet into a small pile. This heaven thunder would contain the purest power of heaven thunder. Use it as a flagpole and match it with a flag with pure yang fire. With a wave of his hand, he summoned thousands of lightning and fire. As long as those evil things came into contact with it, they would be turned into ashes. He took out a pile of golden triangular flags from his sleeves. These small flags seemed to carry a very dense fire attribute spiritual energy. Just by falling there, they would burn people to death. The wooden sticks and the flags were rolled up one by one, and soon they became pennants. After Hua Feng finished all the preparations, he stuffed the small chess piece into Li Yuanqing's arms and rushed out. What else does Senior need to do? You said it yourself, but you don't seem to be in a hurry. Hurry up and follow me. Li Yuanqing followed Hua Feng's footsteps and shuttled through his cave abode. Finally, he arrived at a remote secret room that belonged to Luo. There was a small array in the secret room. Hua Feng raised his hand and placed a spirit stone into the array. He pulled Li Yuanqing over, and the two of them jumped into the array. In an instant, they disappeared. When the image in front of Li Yuanqing flashed, they had already deleted the Everpeace mountain range. This was a wooden house in a small bamboo forest. Hua Feng had already walked out of the house and was standing in the courtyard with a compass in his hand. He was calculating something. A stream of energy suddenly shot out from the compass and went straight into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. Li Yuanqing didn't know the meaning behind the words, so he followed Hua Feng and waited in the courtyard. Not long after, there was a flash of light in the sky. A hearty laugh arrived first, followed by a very familiar figure. Old thing, I knew that you would definitely not be able to endure it. If you were to ignore this kind of thing after seeing it, I'm afraid that it would be as unbearable as 100 claws scratching your heart. Wang Lan's face was flushed red again. In just a short while, she had drunk quite a lot of wine. However, he seemed to be in a good mood. He looked excitedly at Hua Feng and Li Yuanqing. Kid, you're quite capable. You have quite a lot of tricks up your sleeves. You were able to convince this old fellow in such a short period of time. Wang Lan looked at Li Yuanqing and even praised him. Li Yuanqing only smiled. Hua Feng, on the other hand, had a cold expression on his face. He looked like Wang Lan. Stop being so glib. Since you're the one who brought this matter here, you'll be the vanguard and I'll be the one behind you. All right. As long as you're here, I definitely don't have to worry about anything. Although the Divine Fire sect had some skills, they were just decorations in front of you. Hua Feng looked deeply at Wang Lan, then at Li Yuanqing and said, Old fellow, you usually don't care about the affairs of the world. Today you're like this. If you really want to fight, I think you've probably received quite a lot of benefits from him. Hey! Wang Lan shook the wine gourd and said, What benefits? I'm just fated to be friends with you, and I'm just a little more pleasing to the eye. Humph. Then I hope that the two of you have a deep fate and don't run away halfway.
Cloud Sky Sect.
The flames that soared into the sky extended for hundreds of miles. In the fire, all lives were in misery. Those demons who could not escape in time were all swept into the fire, burning until they wailed. Even with such a thick isolation array, that miserable howl could still reach people's ears, making them unable to help but be moved. Wang Susu was standing on an inconspicuous tower in the mountain range below. Wang Qiushan had been waiting by her side. How dare they use such vicious methods? Wang Susu gritted her teeth, tears in her eyes as she looked at her subordinates who were burned by the fire. These demons and some humans were the assets of the Cloud Sky sect that they had painstakingly managed for so many years. They didn't expect that they would be burned to ashes by Bei Shan. If one wanted to talk about how this matter had turned out like this, it had to start from the day when Li Yuanqing killed the young sect master of Northern Mountain Fang. The young master had died tragically outside, and the entire Fang Beishan sect was filled with grief and indignation. Naturally, they placed this hatred on the Cloud Sky sect. Originally, the relationship between the two sects wasn't very close, and now that there was a grudge between them, Fang Beishan couldn't take it anymore. He gathered a large army and declared war on the Cloud Sky sect. It was rare for sects to engage in such a large-scale battle in the immortal realm. Originally, the Cloud Sky sect had already made plans to compromise. However, he couldn't admit defeat right from the start. If the other party rushed over aggressively and raised his hands to surrender, then the compensation the other party demanded would be a lion's demand. If they could gain the upper hand in a head-on collision, they would naturally be able to minimize their losses. The Cloud Sky sect relied on their terrain advantage and the fact that they had many disciples and followers, so they still had a chance of winning. However, when the two sides clashed, things immediately became wrong. The strength that Fang Beishan displayed was more than twice as strong as all of them. Fang Beishan, who wasn't very good, didn't lose to such a powerful force, forcing the Cloud Sky sect to retreat. They couldn't even defend the outer perimeter and could only retreat to the inner sect. The first clash had resulted in their defeat, which led to the scene before their eyes. Fang Beishan's men had set fire to the mountain and burned all the people outside who could not escape in time. Among them, there were countless old, weak, women, and children. However, they didn't care. They burned everything into ashes. In front of the Cloud Sky sect, a crack appeared on the dark clouds. A strong light shot out from his analysis and hit a square platform. Fang Beishan's sect master, Fang Yunlong, sat on the high platform with a dignified expression. He was like a true god who was bowing down to the world. It's heavenly deity Fang. Why did Fang Beishan suddenly become so powerful? They have never displayed such strength before. He's been holding back so that he can explode today and catch us off guard. Our Cloud Sky sect is in trouble. In the Cloud Sky sect, everyone was dejected, experiencing a crushing defeat just now, and on the way to escape, they were all killed. That kind of massacre had completely destroyed their confidence. Now, everyone only had to think about how to protect their own lives. In the face of such powerful strength, they had no chance of winning. Fang Yunlong coldly swept his gaze across the group of ants below, and his gaze finally fell on Wang Taiyuan. Wang Taiyuan, as long as you hand over your unfilial son, the enmity between our sects will be written off. I will bring my people back to the sect and pretend that this never happened. The group of elders around Wang Taiyuan were all frightened by Fang Yunlong's aura. They carefully looked at Wang Shaolin, who was behind Wang Taiyuan. This young master was Fang Yunlong's target. This Fang Yunlong is going too far. Just because you've taken advantage of me, you're so arrogant and dare to make such a request. We can't agree to such conditions no matter what. You're right. If we agree to such conditions, then Fang Yunlong will be riding on our heads and doing whatever he wants. From now on, my Cloud Sky sect will be useless. Wang Taiyuan's armor shone with a cold light. The two pairs of eyes stared at Fang Yunlong aggressively, neither of them giving in. He did not understand why Fang Yunlong's subordinates had suddenly become so powerful. Where did the extra reinforcements come from? Moreover, the extra people were all fearless. There was no room for negotiation when fighting with them. They could only fight to the death. Moreover, even when they were about to die, they still wanted to drag someone down with them. He detonated his own body and instantly injured a lot of people. The power of the self-destruction of a peerless realm expert was naturally extraordinary. This was also the reason why they had suffered such heavy injuries the moment they came into contact with him. Keep daydreaming, Wang Taiyuan said coldly. His voice was so loud that it did not match his figure. If you have the guts, come in and take my head. Otherwise, don't talk about your idiotic conditions anymore. Wang Taiyuan's response seemed to be within Fang Yunlong's expectations. Fang Yunlong raised his hand and placed it gently on the side of the bed, silently sizing up the people below. Did you hear that? You've done your best for the sect, but your sect master is such a selfish person. For the sake of his son's life, he's willing to send you to your deaths. Nonsense, Wang Taiyuan coldly rebuked. Do you think everyone knows about the people and habits of your northern mountain? If I really join you, I'll still be skinned alive and have my bones broken. Wang Taiyuan's words calmed down the unstable emotions in the rear. Just now, many people were already tempted to face such a powerful enemy. Perhaps surrendering was the better plan. However, when he thought about the temperament of the jackals of the northern mountains, if he really joined the enemy, he was afraid that he would not have a good ending. What should we do now? Why don't we run away first? The immortal world is so vast anyway, and there's a place for us everywhere. That's right. Although the sect has raised us, We don't have to guard the sect and die together. Wang Susu listened to the guard's whispers behind her. Her lips trembled slightly, and her eyes turned red. She turned around and looked at the small group of guards standing behind her. With a sobbing tone, she shouted, "Why are you guys like this? You guys received such good treatment in the sect and cultivated to the supreme realm. Now, they were just encountering a little hardship, and they were thinking about how to escape in all directions. What kind of behavior was this?" The guards all dodged the young lady's scolding. Although they had resentment in their hearts, they did not dare to say it in front of the young lady. "Miss, you should leave. It's too dangerous here." Wang Qiushan glanced in Wang Tiyuan's direction. The sect master had given him an order to retreat with the young miss. Wang Susu stood there stubbornly and shook off Wang Qiushan's hand. "Master, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just guarding the door here. Don't they want my life? Then let him take it. If they have the ability, I won't have any regrets even if I die." "Miss, don't act on impulse." "Master, I'm not acting on impulse. This is a time of crisis for the sect. How can I hide alone?" "What would that be?" "This is the sect master's order. I don't care. Since father is unwilling to hand me over, then I will die here." Wang Qiushan frowned and thought for a while. The situation at the front line was so urgent. If he just left with his people, then what was he? The hole in the sky had shrunk back. Large clouds surrounded the Cloud Sky sect, forming a huge ring of clouds. After their negotiations broke down, both sides fell into a stalemate. However, Fang Beishan's people were waiting for the soldiers behind them to arrive. The Cloud Sky sect could only stay here and guard the formation. The Cloud Sky sect, which had existed for thousands of years, seemed to be about to be destroyed. The reinforcements on the periphery were also blocked. Fang Beishan had finally found a large ally, which was why he dared to act so recklessly. "Sect Master, there's news. It's the puppet technique."
What?
"We caught one who didn't have the time to self-destruct. We found that he was a puppet controlled by someone, and the most serious thing was that they were still human bodies." "How is that possible?" "Not only that, but there are no traces of divine sense on these bodies. It's very likely that it's the corpse refining technique." Wang Tiyuan's gaze turned sharp as he hurriedly asked, "Has this matter been released?" "I've already sent this news to a few large sections. I wonder when they'll reply."
No rush.
Even if they wanted to stand by and watch, the corpse refining technique was clearly prohibited. No matter what, as long as we hold on, they must come to support us. Wang Taiyuan seemed to have seen a glimmer of hope. He looked at the huge rumbling clouds outside, and a hint of sharpness appeared in his eyes. "Fang Yunlong, pass down the order. Gather all the array masters in the sect. No matter what, we must guard the city protection array and stall for as long as possible until reinforcements arrive." "Understood." In the luxurious palace above the clouds, Fang Yunlong returned to his normal size. To his left sat a row of people in white Taoist robes. They were Fang Beishan's elders. On the right side sat a row of people embroidered with flame patterns. They were the leaders of the Divine Fire sect. Fang Yunlong walked all the way to the front. He stopped in front of a middle-aged man wearing a purple flame robe. "Violet Spirit, how long will it take for you to break his turtle shell?" The purple-robed man slowly extended a finger with his eyes closed. 2 hours. Fang Yunlong said unhappily. "But you've already delayed it for so long, and I still haven't seen that so-called treasure. If we wait for you to finish setting up, there's still 2 hours. I'm afraid we'll already be surrounded by people by then." Ziling smiled and shook her head gently. "Sect leader Fang, please calm down. Since we've already decided to take action, it's already too late. If we don't take down the Cloud Sky sect as soon as possible, we won't be able to bear the consequences." Ziling seemed to have everything planned out. She looked very relaxed and stood up with a smile. "As long as the pill is completed, all the formations around the Cloud Sky sect will be destroyed in an instant." The people from the Divine Fire sect smiled lightly. They did not seem surprised by this statement at all, and were very confident. On the other side, Fang Beishan and the other elders were all quite dissatisfied with this statement. Everyone's behavior was different. "What you said is beautiful, but there are so many heavenly masters behind you. They have already spent a day and a night working together, and they haven't finished yet. Violet's spirit waved her hand and walked over to Fong Yunlong. Sect leader Fong, as the saying goes, good things take time to grind. Now that victory is in your hands, why must you be in such a hurry? Moreover, the time has not yet arrived. Since your so-called flame-gathering pill is so powerful, why wait for so long? That's not true. Everything in this world focuses on the right time, place, and people. If we go against the will of heaven, I'm afraid we might not be able to conform to the will of the people. This time, Venerable Lord Spirit's words made Fong Yunlong want to ridicule him. Their divine fire sect was doing such a thing, but now they were saying that they were in the right place. These words were a little too laughable. Venerable Violet Spirit seemed to have expected Fong Yunlong's attitude. He only smiled and put on an unfathomable expression. Know what sect leader Fong wants to say, but what my divine fire sect has done is in line with the times, so there's no need to care about some old rules of the world. Although Venerable Lord Spirit didn't appear to be that strong on the surface this time, his words were full of tricks. Their divine fire sect was just a small sect before. For some reason, they suddenly had a large number of powerful and fearless puppets. This supremacy purple spirit was clearly only at the peak of the supremacy realm, but he was full of confidence now. He could still sit opposite such a divine fire realm expert with a calm expression. Although Fong Yunlong did not think highly of the sect master, the strength displayed by the divine fire sect now made people have no choice but to respect him. In that case, when can we deliver the final fatal blow? Violet Spirit walked out of the palace and looked up at the sky. The sun was slowly rising. Wait, is it really noon? Really? All right then. Fong Yunlong was helpless. These people were too strange. I hope that when the time comes, Supremacy Purple Spirit won't use any other excuses. Sect leader Fong, don't worry. At noon, the Cloud Sky Sect's protective formation will be broken. Outside the Cloud Sky Sect, far away from the battlefield, many cultivators gathered on the mountain and watched the battle between the two sects. When did Fong Beishan become so powerful? He actually dared to attack. It looks like they have received the help of a noble person. If it wasn't for the reinforcements, I'm afraid they wouldn't have dared to do such a thing. Among the crowd, there were 2 old men and 1 young man. Li Yuanqing stood at the front and looked at the battlefield with concern. The Cloud Sky Sect was at a disadvantage and was about to be attacked. However, they did not know why Fong Beishan had stopped his attacks and surrounded them instead. It would not do them any good to drag this on. Seniors, Fong Beishan is colluding with the Divine Fire Sect. This is the time to be proud. When should we attack? Huofeng looked in the direction of the battlefield with a solemn expression. The details fell into their eyes. The fact that the Divine Fire Sect dares to get involved with these 2 great sects shows that their strength has grown a lot during this period of time. If we let them continue like this, I'm afraid it will definitely cause a disaster. Wang Lan had also become much more clear-headed. She stroked her beard and sized up the battle. What do you think they are waiting for? He clearly had a chance long ago, but he just had to waste it here. Why was this? Are they waiting for something? Wait for what? Something's wrong. There's a situation in the southwest. The 3 of them immediately disappeared from their original spot. Not long after, the 3 of them arrived at the periphery of a wide valley. There was a circle of guards stationed dozens of miles around the canyon. This group of guards was patrolling along the outer route and did not notice that 2 white-haired old men had unknowingly appeared behind them. The 2 white-haired old men followed behind them with smiles on their faces, like 2 naughty children. The captain, who was patrolling in front, suddenly sensed that something was wrong and looked behind him. However, his vision behind him was blocked by the puppets, making it impossible for him to see clearly. He looked to the left and saw nothing. He looked to the right and saw nothing. It turned out that when he turned left, Huofeng and Wang Lan would turn right. He turned to the right, and the 2 of them turned to the left. Such teasing made him dizzy. In addition, the 2 of them were laughing happily. The laughter gradually became wild, making him think that he had heard wrongly. Stop! The squad leader raised the soul-summoning flag in his hand high up, and all the puppets stopped in place. He stormed to the last row of the line. However, There was nothing there. Just as he was puzzled, two white-haired and ruddy heads appeared on his shoulders. One of them said, "What are you looking for?" The other said, "Of course I'm looking for you. Do I even have to ask?" The captain looked around and was shocked by the two huge heads. He hurriedly waved his hands at the two shoulders, wanting to hit the two heads. However, not only did he not hit her, he even placed his hand behind his back. Just as he placed his hand on his shoulder, thousands of threads instantly wrapped around him, directly tying him up like a dumpling and lying on the spot. Wang Lan picked up the wine gourd and took a big gulp. She said happily, "Old man, you're still the same as before." Huo Feng coldly snorted and said unhappily, "Don't mention the past. If I hadn't promised this brat this time, I wouldn't have been willing to get involved in this mess with you. If you say so, then I haven't promised him yet. I think I'll leave now and let the two of you deal with those evil people. If you want to leave, you can leave on your own. Who has ever tried to keep you here?" Seeing that these two old seniors were bickering again, Li Yuanqing came over to help mediate. "Seniors, don't argue anymore. Since we're all sweating for the sake of the human race, it's best to quickly settle these evil things first. What personal grudge do I have with him?" While they were arguing, they suddenly heard a loud rumble coming from the core of the valley. The two of them became serious at the same time. They looked towards the middle of the valley and saw an ominous look in each other's eyes. "Old fellow, don't talk so much nonsense. I think if we don't take care of them inside, they will really turn the world upside down." The three of them arrived at the center of the valley and saw a blood-red cauldron. Below the furnace were hundreds of people in Taoist robes. They had ribbons on their bodies that connected them to the outside of the furnace. The three of them looked at such a grand scene in shock. It was really rare. "What are they doing?" Li Yuanqing asked in confusion. Huo Feng frowned and slowly replied, "If I'm not wrong, they are using the power of many artifact refiners to suppress the power in the furnace, purifying the fire attribute spiritual energy infinitely and finally obtaining the purest fire attribute power. That power is earth-shattering. There's actually such a technique? This is a very risky method. The weapon condensed by this method must be consumed in a short period of time. Otherwise, the incomparably violent energy inside will be difficult to control and will instead cause trouble."